In the first few months, dense swarms of monsters descended, and the Earth instantly turned into a battlefield for myriad races. In the beginning, a few humans awakened with superpowers, but they were far too rare, and the balance of power quickly tipped against us. Humans relied on firearms and nuclear weapons, struggling to build 10 defensive lines to withstand the invading waves. In just 10 years, 2 defensive lines collapsed, and humanity's situation became increasingly desperate. Pushed to the brink, humans were forced to put their lives on the line to hold off the myriad races. Statistics show that in the Eastern Alliance alone, the number of soldiers killed in action has exceeded 1 million. Currently, conventional ammunition is running low, while the number of awakened individuals is rising rapidly. Nations have shifted their strategy, deploying legions of the awakened to the battlefield. To reclaim our homeland, and for the survival of our species, humanity continues to expand its military forces, rushing headlong into war. And so, 10 years in, the largest conscription drive in Chinese history has officially begun. At the Eastern Alliance, in Hepthan, near the northern border, the cold air is filled only with the sounds of tearful farewells tearing through the wind. Tran Quoc Hai, 19 years old, fell at the first defensive line, a level 2 lightning user who faced a rotting giant, and by the end of the battle, only half of his hand remained. Tu Liet, 22 years old, died in battle at the 9th line, a level 3 fire user. He carried a massive amount of explosives and detonated his own core to destroy the enemy bridge, and his body was never found. Behind me is the casualty list sent back last month. They used to be our friends, our family, and our brothers. The red-eyed man standing in front is the former mayor, his voice booming out across the ranks. His words were like a spark, sweeping through everyone's emotions and driving the army's morale to new heights. Spirits flared up, and the crowd roared in unison. Protect our country, protect our land. Enlist, enlist, enlist. Soldiers surged toward the registration table, hungry to get to the front lines and kill the enemy, the atmosphere boiling with hatred for the alien races. Kill all the aliens, shred them to pieces, chop them up. Hundreds of registration forms were gripped tight in hands, accompanied by vows to charge into the battlefield. The recruiter's voice rang out steadily, reading off name after name. Nam Tu Thang, with a gloomy expression, bowed his head and walked to the registration table, looking like he had just lost all his luck. Even though he was only 20, when asked if he would join the combat troops, he chose to stay behind in the logistics division. That decision stunned the recruiter and the crowd, because the rear is usually for women, children, and the elderly. Making this choice in such chaotic times looked exactly like cowardice. Someone gritted their teeth and asked if he had forgotten the scenes of the myriad races slaughtering our compatriots. I have never forgotten, but that is my choice. His cold answer and stubborn expression only angered the crowd further. Just as a young man was about to rush up and attack him, the mayor's voice suddenly rang out. Everyone fell silent as he walked to the registration table, sighing because enlistment is based on voluntary will and personal responsibility. It is just a pity that your stats are so excellent. The army has lost yet another hope. His face darkened, fists clenched tight, and he left silently, ignoring the scornful words surrounding him. The next day, 2 helicopters swept across the sky, but they could not drown out the chanting from the ground. We fight and die with our brothers. Victory, victory, victory. Military morale soared, and those staying behind shouted in unison, protect the country, defend the land, supreme honor. In the distance, he pulled his hood down low, watching the scene as his phone suddenly vibrated. He picked it up and scrolled through the latest event notifications. The #1 headline was about the Eastern Alliance's largest raid on the myriad races battlefield. The second headline mentioned a new graduate in Hepthan refusing to enlist. Reading it, everyone knew exactly who it was targeting. The third report stated that the United States' 10th defensive line had collapsed twice, and Guangzhou was retaken with heavy casualties. He opened the news about himself, and a flood of cursing comments poured out. I don't understand why that guy in Ngyepthan decided to stay back. I only know he made the wrong choice, because if the defense line breaks, Ngyepthan takes the hit, and no one inland will escape either. Coward. The heroes on the front lines are carrying your weight for you. Nam Tu Thang read the comments on his phone with a cold face, then muttered to himself like someone talking to the air. It turns out the reason he did not enlist is that he has already lived through this life once before. In his past life, he was just like them, eagerly enlisting very early to go to the front lines and fight. In the end, he rose to become a strategic commander, achieving enough glory to make his descendants proud. As humanity gradually retreated, he spent his entire life researching the 5 great talents and implanted all 5 seeds into his own body, knowing that maximizing their levels could turn the tide of battle. Unexpectedly, before the plan could be completed, humanity went extinct, and Tu Thang also perished at the hands of the supreme leader of the 10,000 races. Nam Tu Thang sat down on a snow-covered bench by the roadside, clasping his hands together as he pondered the future, the generations to come, and the path he had chosen. Perhaps due to obsession, or maybe fate, he was reborn, dragging the talent trees he had once planted in his body back to the present. The beast-taming tree drives mutated beasts to evolve their bloodlines. The elemental tree condenses water, fire, wind, and lightning, strengthening forbidden spells as consumption increases, while the Asura tree strengthens the body through killing, turning the user into an Asura capable of slaughtering 10,000 enemies once intent peaks. The formation tree layers arrays to create immense power, and the necromancy tree awakens underground spirits for the host, with higher consumption resulting in more powerful summons. These 5 talents require a massive amount of origin stones and time, but once maxed out, their power will explode. Even if 10 defensive lines collapse, he alone could hold back the 10,000 races and save humanity. But right now, even if he went to the battlefield, he'd struggle to catch a few aliens, let alone gather enough origin stones to upgrade his talents, which would soon wither away. Nam Tu Thang figured out the fastest way to get origin stones was to head to the testing ground, a place teeming with mutated beasts, where clearing trials would provide a steady stream of stones for the city's upgrades. Nam Tu Thang stood up and calculated his moves as he walked, arriving shortly at the rear testing ground, a substation of Nguyet City. In front of the Nguyet City substation, a group was processing and sorting alien corpses. The testing ground was originally built in the early years of the war to train soldiers, but since the fighters are on the front lines, it's now mostly staffed by women and the elderly. While cleaning up the alien corpses, someone wished they could turn them into food to send to the front lines as a contribution to the country. When Tu Lu hobbled over on crutches and reminded them, "Auntie Vuong, slow down, don't get hurt." Auntie Vuong kept working and replied, her face tired and worried about missing the monthly quota, while the person next to her sighed, "That's right. It's a pity we're old and can barely lift a blade, and the beasts are so fierce we have to process them one by one." Tu Lu lowered her head sadly and sighed, "If only I could help too." Just then, Nam Tu Thang arrived in front of them and greeted everyone. He scratched his head shyly and said he wanted to help everyone process the mutated beasts. Hearing that, Tu Lu was overjoyed and hurried over to lead Nam Tu Thang into the warehouse to get a uniform. Relieved of her staffing worries, she brightened up considerably, and Nam Tu Thang politely thanked her before following her inside. Behind them, the 2 women continued working while wondering why such a tall, fit young man was at the testing ground. Suddenly, the woman named Vuong realized Nam Tu Thang was the guy who had refused to go to the front lines, and the person next to her widened her eyes, asking why a draft dodger would appear at the testing ground. Auntie Vuong frowned, checking her phone to confirm, and insisted he must be trying to make up for hiding in the rear, living a cowardly life. She continued to mock him with disdain, not believing he had the strength to handle the alien races for them. Inside the warehouse, Lu propped herself up on her crutches and dragged out a blade to hand to Nam Tu Thang. Nam Tu Thang put on the uniform, looking even more impressive than an air anchor, clutching the blade in his hand. Nam Tu Thang walked out the door, and behind him, Lu secretly rejoiced, thinking the progress would be much faster now, watching his back as he left. Lu's eyes filled with infatuation, and her cheeks flushed as she shyly praised how insanely handsome he was. As if reading her mind, Auntie Vuong cut in, calling him a coward who didn't dare go to the front lines. Lu asked again in confusion, but Auntie Vuong showed clear disgust, insisting he was spineless and doubting he could handle the beasts. Nam Tu Thang didn't bother to pay attention to them, coldly stepping inside. The system announced, "You have selected A rank trial. No previous trial record found. Please confirm if you have unlocked the A rank trial." Nam Tu Thang confirmed unlocking the trial. The door slowly opened, accompanied by an alarm siren and system notifications. Inside, monsters were packed densely, opening their jaws and rushing out as fast as a wave of hunger. The long night is about to descend, and humanity has no path of retreat. For the future of mankind, Nam Tu Thang accepted draping the darkness over himself, quietly becoming a shadow in the background, refusing to back down even if he had to bear humiliation. After the day the 10,000 races invaded, spiritual energy exploded, causing animals to mutate. In this life, he would stand on the front lines against the aliens while also clearing out the mutated beasts. Thanks to his combat memories from his past life, dealing with the scatterbirds was as easy as flipping his hand, and he locked straight onto the weak point behind the beast's neck. He seized the moment, gathered his strength to leap, and slipped behind its back, his blade falling neatly to send the scatterbird crashing down. As the beast's body fell, he landed decisively, handily digging out the still-warm origin stone. The system panel popped up, unlocking the talent tree. Tamed Beasts 1, Beast Level 0, Beast Tamer Level 0, Progress 1 out of 800. This mechanism matched his old memories perfectly, with every scatterbird yielding one origin stone and expanding his limit for mutated beasts. A while later, he began to feel the fatigue setting in, his shirt tattered and skin scratched, but everything was still under control. Before he could rest, he was chased by another flock of scatterbirds, rushing at him like the wind, screaming as they closed in. To end it quickly without wasting energy, he avoided wasted movement in every strike. His blade aimed right for their fatal points, swinging cleanly as they fell one by one. A massive, ferocious scatterbird suddenly let out a roar, then charged straight right at him. Sensing the danger, he spun around and planted his hand to flip backward, driving a strike right into its neck, forcing the beast to freeze in place and take the hit. He prioritized taking care of the scatterbirds that were occupying the high ground. Wave after wave of beasts rushed in to surround him, but he kept dodging behind their backs and finishing them off. After wiping out the stubborn bunch, he exhaled and looked at the system panel. The number of tamed beasts rose to 5. Beast level was still 0. Beast tamer level hadn't changed, and progress was 5 out of 800, confirming his calculations of higher efficiency. Suddenly, he heard a commotion coming from behind him. Just as he turned his head, a ferocious scatterbird was already diving down at him. This one was exceptionally large, and he immediately realized it was the leader, the Scatterbird Emperor. Without hesitating, he got into a stance and gripped his blade tight, ready to fight, while the Scatterbird Emperor gathered momentum and leaped up, rushing in to start the battle. He put all his strength into blocking the attack, but after fighting continuously, his stamina was drained, making it clearly difficult to deal with the Scatterbird Emperor right now. Not stopping there, the Scatterbird Emperor continued to press him with a second strike. To save his energy, he focused on striking its vital points, dodging while looking for an opening. He circled behind the Bird Emperor's head. Before it could recover its stance, he was already behind it, pouring all his strength into a slash at its neck. But the toughness of the Scatterbird Emperor in this life was completely different from his old memories. The blade hit the neck and only made a dry, hard, clanking sound. Unwilling to give up, he decided to strike again, gathering momentum to launch himself upward. With eyes burning with power, he locked onto the target, preparing for the next attack. At the same time, outside the trial room, an announcement rang out signaling the lunch break, while Aunt Wang and Aunt Li were still standing outside, monitoring the situation inside. Little Liu walked over and asked why they hadn't gone to eat, but Aunt Wang lowered her voice and told him not to bother because she wanted to see how long he could keep up the act. Aunt Li, standing next to her, waved her hand and added, insisting that he would quietly retreat in a moment. The two aunties went back and forth, completely doubting his abilities, determined not to let him stay here and show off. Little Liu helplessly reminded them that an A-rank trial was no easier than the front lines, and upon hearing that, the two of them fell silent. While they were still chatting, the trial announcement suddenly rang out. Challenger Nam Tu Thang, a rank trial. First floor concluded. Hearing that, Aunt Wang wore a triumphant look, turning back to look at the two people behind her, believing her guess even more. She muttered something and started to walk away. Suddenly, she bumped into something. Her eyes glanced upward out of reflex. Both aunties were immediately stunned and panicked when they saw the figure standing in front of them. He walked out with a nonchalant air, his face and body covered in dried blood, riddled with scratches, his clothes tattered, and only his cold gaze remained unchanged. The system panel clearly displayed, Challenger Nam Tu Thang, 2,000 kills, setting a new record for the first floor of the trial tower. Aunt Wang was dazed, unable to believe her eyes. She screamed in panic, refusing to accept that he had passed the A-rank trial. With dark circles under his eyes from exhaustion and a blood-stained face, Nam Tu Thang calmly confirmed to Aunt Wang that the A-rank trial was over. Aunt Li helped her up while little Liu stood there in shock. He turned his back and walked straight ahead, leaving the three of them staring blankly at his silhouette moving toward the door. Little Liu looked back at the pile of stacked monsters, still shaken, while Aunt Wang was frozen in silence before the sight of monster corpses piled high before her eyes. He turned into the shower room to wash off the blood clinging to his body. Under the rushing water, the wounds on his body were clearly visible. As he showered and thought, the system popped up. The summary appeared. Number of tamed beasts reached 2,000. Beast level increased to 1. Mutated beast tamer level jumped to 2, and completion progress was full. Suddenly, the speaker blared, announcing a war report. A new wave of attacks was about to start. Hearing the news, he realized that the level 7 Son of Thunder punishment and the level 6 Flame Scholar had gone to the front lines. Memories of his past life flooded back. Those two were defeated early on, and the front lines became increasingly miserable. His mood sank as he realized there wasn't much time left before the 8th defense line collapsed. He couldn't delay any longer. His next objective was the second floor of the trial tower. Back in the trial room, Aunt Wang and Aunt Li were pushing the mutant beasts aside, and she still hadn't stopped scrutinizing him. Aunt Li had softened up, acknowledging his combat strength, but both of them were still absolutely certain that he wouldn't be coming back to this place again. No sooner had the words left their mouths than he appeared right in front of them, his face darkening, causing Aunt Li to immediately signal Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang maintained her disdainful look, asking him in a mocking tone what else he wanted. He didn't even bother to reply, voice cold as he stated he was entering the second-level trial, then brushed past her, ignoring the nasty glare she shot at his back. Aunt Wang spun around in a huff, pointing a trembling finger as she accused him of just putting on a show for everyone to see. Little Liu hurried forward, looking anxious as she warned him that the second floor was crawling with giant mutant beasts, suggesting he wait to recover and find a team for support, while a man nearby nodded in agreement. Turning a deaf ear to their advice, he stepped forward coldly, gripping his weapon tight as he headed straight for the trial gate. Aunt Wang exploded in anger at his attitude, her voice loud and mocking as she ridiculed him for not having the guts to fight on the front lines. Little Lu watched his retreating back, a seed of doubt sprouting in her heart. A man like him didn't seem like the type of coward who would hide in the rear. With time running short, he wasted no movement and stepped quickly into the second level of the trial. The system interface flashed into view, and the Level A trial on the second floor kicked off immediately. The moment the doors slid open, a swarm of fish-headed beasts surged toward him like a tidal wave. Facing the crushing pressure of the second floor, he instantly calculated his angle of attack. He charged straight into the school of fish beasts, swinging his sword with devastating force at the massive heads rushing his way. Right then, a three-eyed beast materialized behind him, darting forward with blinding speed. In a split second, it latched onto his back with a powerful suction force, leaving him no time to react, only able to let out a grunt of pain. His body was yanked off balance, spinning wildly in midair. The momentum dragged him skidding backward across the floor. He twisted his body, using a movement technique to quickly regain his footing. In front of him, the pack of fish heads roared incessantly, their glowing red eyes locking onto him. He straightened up, his own eyes turning red as he stared right back at their provocation. When the swarm of fish heads lunged at him in unison, he immediately dropped into a stance to channel his power. His gaze grew sharper by the second. He channeled all his strength and exploded upward into the air. The blade in his hand thrust straight down into the fish beast's skull. The massive monster collapsed instantly. The sight made the remaining beasts freeze in their tracks for a heartbeat. He walked forward coldly, a thought flashing through his mind. Level 2 mutated beasts were nothing special. Taming them and disposing of them would be enough. Nam Tu Thang activated his oppressive beast-taming talent. A wave of power rippled out, blanketing the entire second floor of the trial tower. The pressure crushed directly against the consciousness and bodies of every fish head in the zone. In the blink of an eye, the horde of fish heads dropped to their knees before him in unison. He walked up to the trembling creatures, softly warning them to behave, while the red sword in his hand pulsed with power and his talent suddenly spiked to level 3. 3 days later, the second floor of the Scourge City branch trial room was filled with the sounds of clearing beast corpses. Faces were drenched in sweat, but everyone worked efficiently, with someone signaling to move a pile of meat immediately. Amidst the bustle, he sat quietly in a corner, recovering his stamina after the prolonged battle. He glanced at the system panel. The number of tamed beasts had reached 12,000. His beast tracking level had hit 6, and his variant beast tamer level also touched 6 completion achieved. Compared to before, this time it only took 3 days to sweep through over 10,000 mutated beasts, an efficiency far exceeding his predictions. With his taming talent now at level 6, he could venture into the wilderness tonight. The Scourge City wilderness was notoriously treacherous. Even a level 5 ability user would struggle to survive entering it, and retreating was even harder. For the beast tribes, Scourge City posed a heavy threat because it concentrated strong fighters and heavy firepower, so they rarely initiated siege attacks. But in his plan, taming the beast tribes was an indispensable link. An older man saw him resting and walked over, asking if he wanted to put in some overtime and move another load. He stood up to leave and replied that he didn't need to, as he had to head out early today. Hearing that, Aunt Wang shot him a nasty look, sneering that he was planning to quit after only a few days. Her words were met with looks of disgust from the others, and a man cut in to defend him, stating that since he arrived, progress had far exceeded the plan, leaving Aunt Wang to retort with a voice full of bitterness. While the two of them were still arguing, he had already walked away coldly, while little Liu hurried up behind to report that the trial tower progress had caught up. The girl moved closer, her eyes full of admiration and face flushing red, softly advising him to get some rest since he had been working too hard lately. He turned his head with a gentle smile and thanked her politely. Seeing that, she didn't try to keep him any longer, simply urging him to go home and rest. Right now, outside the city gates, a long line of vehicles is streaming back in, bumper to bumper. Someone sticks their head out of a car window, shouting at the top of their lungs for everyone to clear the way. The convoy is heading straight for the hospital, packed with wounded soldiers from the front lines. He stands off to the side, watching the stream of vehicles rush by. Behind him, two women suddenly cheer as they see a rocket streak up into the sky. The crowd around them gets excited, pointing and claiming that we must be winning the battle. But someone else quickly explains that it's not a sign of victory at all. That's a distress signal from the front lines, a flare calling for reinforcements from the rear. He looks up at the sky, his heart going cold. The collapse of the defensive line isn't far off. Without missing a beat, he gears up, changes his outfit, and puts on a mask. Gripping his blade tightly, he steps forward with determination. He cuts through the freezing snow, his silhouette looking sharper and more dangerous than ever. Meanwhile, outside the city, as a convoy is moving, one of the vehicles suddenly stalls out right in a dangerous zone. The passenger in the broken-down car gets out to check the situation. Up ahead, a blonde girl sticks her head out and warns him to abandon the car and come back in the morning, since this area is crawling with mutant wolves. He nods immediately upon hearing that. Just as he turns back to grab his gear, a dark shadow rushes in from the distance with a speed that leaves him stunned. The shadow sweeps past the convoy. It's Nam Tu Thang. The blonde girl is totally taken by surprise. She curiously asks who that guy is, and why on earth he's out here alone when it's so dark. Watching his back disappear like the wind, she hurriedly shouts that the area ahead is mutant wolf territory and super dangerous. But he doesn't slow down a bit, his running form tight and full of momentum. The girl with shoulder-length hair in the same car reminds her that the mayor has urged them multiple times. The number of wounded on the front lines is rising fast, and they need the medicine. But the blonde girl is still worried about that guy. Her teammate calmly reassures her, pointing out that this is a giant mutant wolf den, and if they get ambushed, they won't stand a chance. Her voice is flat, like she's used to it. After 10 years of fighting the 10,000 races, she's seen too many reckless people to care about every single one. Hearing that, the blonde girl grips the steering wheel tight, getting ready to drive off. The car just starts to move when a piercing scream rings out, making both of them jump. Cries for help echo through the air. The blonde girl glances through the window and sees a blonde man, eyes wide with terror and face covered in blood, collapsing into the cold snow. Suhai looks into the rearview mirror and sees a giant mutant wolf closing in on their teammate. Realizing the danger, the black-haired girl immediately screams to drive, as a steel wolf as big as a mountain appears behind them. Just as she's about to floor the gas to escape, a giant wolf lunges right at the front of the car, smashing into it so hard the windshield cracks, turning both girls pale with fear. The black-haired girl quickly regains her composure, aims her gun at the wolf, and signals her teammate to drive while she pulls the trigger again and again. Far away, Nam Tu Thang hears the shots and looks back. Gunfire, and it's coming from the direction of the medical supply team. While he's watching, hundreds of red eyes emerge from the shadows behind him. The whole pack is staring him down. He realizes they aren't just attacking the others, they're hunting him here too. He spins around, his icy gaze locking straight onto the pack of wolves. The wolves advance, closing the circle. He can feel the spiritual energy and pressure building up, their power intensifying with every passing second. Over at the supply convoy, luck is on their side. The reinforced glass is tough. It's cracked all over, but the wolves haven't managed to break through yet. The black-haired girl reloads her weapon and turns to warn her teammate, shouting, "Tu Nam, be careful." She tells her that no matter how many wolves get killed or pushed back, they have to seize the moment and drive away immediately. Tu Nam's face is tense, tight as a guitar string, but her eyes are determined as she nods. Over by the mountain range, Nam Tu Thang is locked in combat with the ferocious wolf pack. Fighting and observing at the same time, he immediately spots the alpha wolf right there, and he secretly rejoices. If he can just wipe out this pack, the medical team will be safe. The Wolf King, with its massive body and crushing aura, charges straight at him. He immediately lowers his center of gravity, shifting into a combat stance. A beam of light suddenly flashes above his head. Without hesitating, he activates his beast-taming talent. He unleashes wave after wave of control energy, directing it straight at the wolves in front of him. One by one, they are wrapped in power and slammed into the ground, clean and precise. Seeing its pack getting crushed so miserably, the Wolf King glares in furious rage. It roared out, trying to intimidate him. The pressure kept mounting, driving the wolf pack into a bloodthirsty frenzy. Thanks to that crushing aura, the pack managed to dodge quite a few of his attacks. He stared straight at the pack and the Wolf King, his fury erupting. To take down a rider, you shoot the horse first. To defeat the bandits, you capture their king first. As soon as he finished speaking, he unleashed his power and shot straight up into the air. The entire wolf pack felt a chill run down their spines. His opening strike blasted a massive crater in the ground, sending whole swathes of wolves flying. His goal was to confront the Wolf King head-on. Priority number 1, tame the leader of this mutant wolf pack. The Wolf King looked up to see him barreling down. Its eyes were bloodshot, boiling with rage. Before it could even counterattack, he locked onto its head and slammed it down with massive force, shouting loudly, "Steel Wolf King, tame." A wave of red energy surged out from the palm of his hand. In the blink of an eye, the red wave enveloped the Wolf King, completing the taming process. The glowing red in its eyes faded, replaced by the look of a normal beast. As soon as the Wolf King submitted, the rest of the pack immediately bowed their heads before him. Over at the medicinal herb team, the black-haired girl was shooting and screaming at her teammate to drive. Nam got the order and immediately floored the gas pedal to speed up. They thought the car would burst through the pack, but unexpectedly, the engine sputtered and died. The car sat dead still, sending a chill down both girls' spines. The black-haired girl turned her head to look back, her face tense. The wolves kept ramming their bodies into the car, making the frame shake violently. On the blonde girl's side, the glass started to crack and shatter. Fear began to overwhelm them. One wolf seized the moment to smash through the windshield, its sharp fangs snapping inches from the two of them. In that moment, it felt like everything was over. But when she opened her eyes, the black-haired girl was stunned. The scene before her was the complete opposite of what she expected. The wolf's eyes had shifted from red to blue. The one right in front of her widened its eyes, looking strangely gentle. The wolf immediately jumped off the cargo bed. Right after that, the entire pack retreated far away from the convoy. Nam and her teammate sat frozen in the car, drenched in sweat, feeling a mix of fear and confusion. Just a few minutes later, the wolf pack that had attacked the medicinal team returned and gathered in one spot. Nam Tu Thang stood on a large rock with the Wolf King, while the pack below bowed their heads in submission. Nam and her teammate climbed onto the roof of the truck to look over. They stammered, asking if those giant wolves had really been tamed. The girl behind her was astonished. Just one person tamed the entire pack. His power was absolutely terrifying. He sat down on the rock to rest and opened up the system panels. The information was clear. Over 1,000 tamed extreme steel wolves. Daily quota full. Tracking beast level 7. Mutant beast tamer level 7. Progress complete. The system asked if he wanted to exceed the limit using origin stones. He glanced at it and decided to save his resources. It wasn't necessary. While he was thinking, the Wolf King walked over and rubbed its head against him, begging for pets. He turned to the Wolf King and reminded it not to attack humans. Looking into the distance, he realized there were still 3 uncontrolled zones around Ngiep City. Further out, there were plenty more mutant beasts. He decided he would tame them all. He glanced over at the medicinal team. For the greater good, he was determined to build a massive army of mutant beasts to ensure their transport route stayed safe. His phone vibrated, notifying him of a message from Tu Lu. She reported an emergency meeting he needed to attend. After reading it, He wondered what kind of trouble the workshop was in now. A while later, at the trial grounds of the Niep City branch, loud shouting echoed through the air. Workers were getting scolded continuously by a man in a gray shirt. That arrogant officer stood in the center, flanked by two burly subordinates who backed him up. He was berating them for failing to handle high-level mutant beasts. The former mayor, sweating profusely, rushed out to mediate. He explained that this was their first time handling beasts above level 4, and since most of the workforce was older, they needed time to adapt. Being interrupted only made the officer even more furious. He kept pointing his finger and shouting violently, his face looking more and more aggressive with every second. He screamed that there weren't enough exotic beasts in the rear, so if they wanted to secure the front lines, they had to start processing these powerful ones right now. The former mayor stepped back in fear, repeatedly promising that he would send people deeper into the danger zone to guarantee the supply. Still not satisfied, that commanding officer dismissed all the hard work of Niep City, falsely accusing them of deliberately delaying military supplies. Standing nearby, Yahello anxiously explained that these beasts were approaching level 4 and were beyond their processing capabilities, but the officer just ignored him, kept on criticizing, and even brought up the fact that he hadn't enlisted yet. He pretended to feel regret, but every single word that came out of his mouth was dripping with sarcasm. Unable to take it anymore, Aunt Wang suddenly stepped forward to argue back, reminding him that her family had sacrificed their lives on the front lines, which left everyone around them completely stunned. With red eyes and tears welling up, she pointed her finger straight at the officer, declaring that they had been working non-stop to speed up progress, and she would not accept having their efforts dismissed like that. Hearing that, the commanding officer coldly hurled an insult right at Aunt Wang's face. A subordinate standing nearby immediately rushed forward to threaten her, cracking his knuckles aggressively, causing Aunt Wang to tremble and back away, while the whole crowd held their breath before the situation exploded. Right at that critical moment, Nam Tuthang suddenly appeared and made his move with lightning speed, landing a heavy blow right under that guard's jaw. The guard's body flipped backward and crashed onto the ground, his consciousness instantly blacking out, while the commanding officer's face turned pale as a sheet. He stood there shielding everyone, and the atmosphere instantly shifted as the tension began to dissolve. Yahello couldn't take his eyes off him as he issued a warning, saying that arguments should remain arguments, and there was no need to get physical. The former mayor turned around and immediately guessed his identity, shocked that he had taken down an ability user with just a single strike, raising the question in his mind of whether he had already awakened. The commanding officer glared furiously at him, gritting his teeth as he demanded to know who the hell he was. He raised his gun, his face twisted with a threatening expression as he aimed it straight at him. He looked at the commanding officer, and memories from his past life immediately came flooding back. In his past life, this scumbag profited from the war, surviving for over 10 years among the 10,000 races before betraying humanity, eventually being wanted and executed. His name was Lam Hu Tai. Back then, he secretly sold military supplies on the supply lines, causing massive casualties by the time his crimes were exposed. He immediately realized that this guy was targeting Niep City's processing speed, using their hands to hunt high-level beasts for his own profit. Keeping a cold expression, he silently calculated his countermeasure and then took the initiative to speak up. "Sir, there is no one here betraying anyone or causing any trouble." Hearing that, the crowd behind him spoke up in unison to support him, looking indignantly at that corrupt official. Being pushed back like this, a look of hesitation appeared on his face. As the situation had gone far beyond his initial calculations, the commanding officer observed him closely, and his memory suddenly clicked. Realizing that this was the guy who had once deserted the army, he immediately grabbed onto this excuse to launch a counterattack. He gave a faint smile, not bothering to care, and calmly said that he had processed tens of thousands of monsters in the trial tower before, so if he died, the supply progress would definitely slow down. This statement made both Lam Hu Tai and the former mayor freeze in shock, realizing the nickname Butcher wasn't given to him for no reason. He continued to expose the guy's objective, pointing out that high-level exotic beasts already had the ability to interfere with mines, and no place other than Niep City could handle them. Lam Hu Tai started to waver, seeing that this deserter understood exotic beasts to a terrifying degree, and he had also just knocked out his bodyguard. Looking at the reaction of the crowd, he understood that the guy wasn't lying. Suddenly, he cracked a calculating smile, thinking that if the guy was volunteering, it fit his plans even better. He stepped closer and issued a formal military order, setting the condition that if he could process 5,000 exotic beasts in 1 week, his life would be spared. But if he failed, both new debts and old debts would be settled all at once. The former mayor anxiously tried to dissuade him, saying a military order was no joke, and the crowd was buzzing with noise. Xiaolu suggested everyone help out, but he calmly reassured them and accepted the challenge. Information flashed through his mind, noting that level 4 exotic beasts had high defense and strong mental capabilities. To Lam Hu Tai, they were just a massive mine of profit. But to him, they were the perfect materials to upgrade his talent. He quickly formulated a plan to use all of Lam Hu Tai's exotic beasts to level up, and after that, he would completely uproot the guy's forces. The next day, 5,000 level 4 mutated exotic beasts were transported in, and Officer Mok demanded an inspection and a signature for receipt. Xiaolu stepped forward to verify everything according to procedure. That guy Mok loudly read out the military order, stating that the logistics staff of Niep City had accepted the mission to process 5,000 exotic beasts. The deadline was 1 week, and according to wartime regulations, the head of military supplies had the right to deal with anyone who violated the order. Anyone suspected of disobeying orders, inciting unrest, or attacking a superior would face severe punishment without the need for a report. Mok looked at the Niep City group with a provocative gaze, making a gesture of pulling a trigger to threaten them. Upon hearing the word execution, Little Liu's face went completely pale with fear. That guy Mok just gave a faint, cold smile, mocking them for trembling like leaves now, which was a stark contrast to how confident they were when they signed the military order. He looked visibly excited, just waiting for the moment he could personally execute him with his own hands. With a twisted, sick look on his face, he leaned in close, tapping the military order against his shoulder while grinning with pure malice. He accepted the order with total indifference, not even bothering to spare a single glance at the guy standing right in front of him. He shot a cold, spine-chilling glare over at Mok, a silent warning that he better keep his mouth shut if he knows what is good for him. The bodyguard saw this and his blood instantly boiled over, so he cursed out loud. "You son of a bitch." Mok just kept smiling and waved it off, signaling that it was fine, before turning back to say that he was nothing more than a dead man walking. A while later inside the Ngiepthon training room, everyone was preparing to deal with the mutant beasts, and Little Liu warned that to fight high-level beasts, they needed a huge amount of anesthetic gas bombs. But the uncle beside him was worried because the main supply had been moved to the frontline field hospital, so the rear reserves were low and might not be enough. He just told him to be careful, and he adjusted his outfit before confirming with the white-haired uncle. Behind them, the bodyguard standing next to Mok was curious, wondering who gave him the confidence when beasts could attack the mine directly, and even the training arena was hard to survive, so he guessed that he must belong to the mental attribute class. Mok immediately denied it, because he had already tested him with his own mental powers and he had shown zero reaction. So he mocked him, saying he could never withstand the mutant beast and he just had to wait for his execution. His face revealed a twisted, perverted expression as he imagined the scene of him going crazy and rushing out to fight, certain that he could not keep his sanity before the level 4 mutant beasts and would be drowned in fear until death came for him. Mok clicked his tongue in regret while a purple light flashed around him, smiling viciously because he believed that once he was dealt with, everything would fall into his hands. Then he looked at the bodyguard with a dark gaze, saying, "The boss sent you to supervise, so you know how to report this, right?" The bodyguard nodded and replied, "Rest assured, sir. I will report everything that happens here in full detail." Meanwhile, inside the training room, he had already entered, and although the mutant beasts were sedated with drugs leaving their bodies paralyzed, their mental strength was still incredibly powerful. The pressure weighed down on him, making him feel a bit uncomfortable, but then a distinct feeling of excitement suddenly surged up within him. Because the illusions they created actually were not bad at all, the illusion immediately charged straight toward him. The red mirage dissolved, revealing a skull-headed monster that swung its arms to strangle him, and he was momentarily surprised, unable to react in time. In just an instant, within his subconscious, he saw his own body being crushed to pieces, but it was all just a hallucination. Relying on his mental strength, he activated his subconscious energy and drove his sword straight into the beast's head, causing the entire illusion to vanish instantly. He gathered momentum from behind and dashed forward with incredible speed. He leaped up, used force to press down hard on the monster's head, and shouted loudly, "Get lost. You are nothing but an illusion." The strike hit home and the monster collapsed immediately, so he stepped forward to pull his sword out of its skull. He flared up his killing intent, his eyes sharp as razors as he provoked the remaining mutant beasts. Suddenly, strange signs began to appear on the ground beneath him. He looked down and saw multiple streams of dark energy gathering together at a single point. He stood still and channeled his power, erecting a protective barrier around his body to block the mental force from invading. Suddenly, a stream of spiritual energy pierced into his subconscious, whispering, "You are tired. Just let go. Humans should live more comfortably. Think about the price you have paid. Think about all those who have fallen. Is it all worth it? The 10,000 races are so powerful. How can you possibly take revenge?" The whispers slowly sliced into his spirit, thinking they would make him suffer, but they were wrong. He reached out and grabbed the stream of energy that was trying to burrow into his head. He pulled tight on the force that was clinging stubbornly to his mind. Then he exploded with power, emphasizing every single word to the monsters. "The grudge between me and the 10,000 races will naturally be avenged, and the fate of humanity will be decided by humans alone." Activating the Asura talent, he channeled his power to wrap his body in killing intent, preparing to launch a mental counterattack against the monsters. He pointed at the mutant beasts, explaining that opening the Asura form would drastically increase his physique and spirit, and this killing intent was a shortcut to upgrading his talent. He spread his hand and counted on his fingers, signaling to unleash the power of the Asura outwards. As soon as the Asura form opened, he immediately struck back at the minds of the mutant beasts. The effect skyrocketed, and their subconscious minds and spirits were left screaming in absolute despair. In the luxurious palace of Lam Hu Tai, he was screaming in frustration because the transaction had hit a snag, but his greed for money made him cling to it until the very last minute. A girl dressed in a costume stood beside him, pouring wine and whining for him to play with her, but he just raised his glass and sighed with a greasy, sweaty face. Sitting next to a beauty, his mind was only on business. The demand for goods was getting urgent. The supply chain in the Hua nation was stagnant, and other places were bad too. So he frowned, calculating how to grab more without losing money, fearing the beasts he prepared for so long would go to waste. And he remembered that fat henchman who got the job done but charged a huge price and was unpredictably greedy. Plus, he had to watch out for investigators on the front line. He tilted his head back and downed the glass of wine in one gulp. He was still worried about the transaction and thinking of a safe place to dispose of the high-level mutant beasts when his phone suddenly vibrated with a message. Sumbrisa. The long-legged girl passed the phone to Lam Hu Tai. Seeing it was a subordinate, he snatched it up and barked into the receiver, asking what they wanted. He didn't even let them finish. cutting them off because he assumed Nhipthan had failed again. He only cared about whether the kid had been dealt with. But the voice on the other line reported they were back after 4 days and the mission was basically done. Hearing that, Lam Hu Tai froze. He remembered Xiaoliu mentioning the mutant beasts were close to hitting level 4. Even with the girl beside him teasing him, he couldn't believe his ears and immediately demanded a confirmation. Over at Ningyiapthan, the bodyguard confirmed that the entire quota of 5,000 level 4 mutant beasts had been wiped out, and the guy had completed it all by himself. Lam Hu Tai burst out laughing. With one arm around the girl and the other holding the phone, he asked if the kid was still alive. The bodyguard reported that he was exhausted, but his mind was still sharp. Tai immediately ordered them to watch him closely and report any strange behavior to the bodyguard. Standing in the back, the fat guy was fuming because his earlier scan hadn't picked up any mental energy, and his mind was a mess trying to figure out how the kid pulled it off. While the fat guy was standing there looking stupid, everyone else rushed over to take care of the kid, and Aunt Wang shot a cold, deadly glare in the fat guy's direction. The system panel popped up showing the Asura talent had reached level 5, with progress at 5,000 out of 5,500. It unlocked the Wicked Blade alloy skill, which increased the weapon's slash attribute by 1 level and ignored defense for 5 seconds. Looking at the attribute panel, he was secretly pleased that both his physical and mental stats had improved, even though he hadn't hit level 6 yet. He had unlocked the first Asura skill. He closed his eyes to rest while the aunties fussed over him, his mind already plotting to tame higher-level mutant beasts in the wild to speed up his plans. Aunt Wang suddenly spoke up with a firm voice, saying he had made Nngyiapthan proud. Otherwise, they would have been looked down upon. Aunt Lee nodded in agreement, and everyone turned their eyes toward the fat guy, filled with judgment and criticism. Being scrutinized like that, the Woodlement mental user felt incredibly uncomfortable having to bear the brunt of their hostility. He immediately sensed an abnormal fluctuation, realizing that completing the mission had pissed someone off. The Asura level up made his senses even sharper. The wood user tried his power again and discovered the kid was actually a mental ability user. Furious that his path to making money was blocked, he decided to investigate the kid thoroughly. The bodyguard behind him placed a hand on his shoulder and warned him that completing the task was all that mattered. If he broke the boss's rules, he knew the consequences. He also reminded him to wait until Lam Hu Tai was done using the kid before making a move. The residual mental power of the demonic beast was still there, so acting recklessly right now would be very dangerous. But the advice went in one ear and out the other. The wood user hated the kid so much he wanted to tear him apart. He yelled at the bodyguard to shut up, then secretly shot a stream of red energy to probe the kid's mind. He felt something invading his mind and frowned in discomfort, thinking this was the perfect time to test out the Asura power. He deliberately relaxed his guard to let the wood user in. The moment the fat guy touched his spirit, his expression changed instantly. The world before his eyes plunged into darkness. He spun around searching, thinking he had entered the kid's mind, but he couldn't see a single entity anywhere. While he was still panicking, the kid's voice called out from the distance, making him jump and whip his head around. The kid called out again, saying he was over there. He condensed his killing intent into a solid spiritual form and grinned. The fat guy was scared out of his wits when he realized the kid was also a mental ability user that he had failed to detect earlier. The wood user felt the killing intent crushing his spirit and screamed in panic, asking who the hell he was. He controlled the killing intent to wrap around and tightly squeeze the guy's legs. The spiritual entity replied coldly that his identity didn't matter. If he wanted to probe, he should take a good look. The killing intent slammed into him, making him writhe in agony. He begged for mercy, but the kid just said he was giving him a taste so he would remember. Tormented by the pressure, the wood user's spirit began to crack within the world of consciousness. On the outside, he went completely insane, laughing maniacally with blood streaming all over him. The fat guy ran around wildly cursing Lam Hu Tai, leaving the bodyguard bewildered and the aunties terrified. Aunt Wang even blamed herself, wondering if their argument had caused this. He kept rambling non-stop, leading the bodyguard to conclude that the excess mental power had driven him crazy. Worried that this would ruin Lam Hu Tai's plans, the bodyguard decided to take action. Without hesitation, he rushed forward and delivered a killing blow. The fat guy collapsed, leaving everyone frozen in horror. The bodyguard apologized, explaining that the guy had been affected by the mental power of the demonic beasts and posed a danger, so he had to be put down. He walked over to check on the kid, determining that his spirit had indeed been disturbed. Thinking about how useless the fat guy was, the bodyguard turned and left in frustration, telling everyone to get back to work and that someone would come to clean up the mess. As soon as the bodyguard was gone, a satisfied smile spread across the kid's face. The system popped up, showing his Asura level jumping to 6, with the progress bar hitting 5,500. After dealing with everything, he fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up, he found everyone gathered around him looking happy, and Aunt Lee announced that he was finally awake. He sat up and asked how long he had been out, and they told him it had been 2 days. Aunt Wang shooed everyone away to get back to work, telling them not to worry about him, while Aunt Lee smiled and told him to eat something. He asked if Lam Hu Tai had brought more beasts, but Aunt Wang shook her head and sighed. She explained the situation at Nghiet Than. Half the substation staff had been deployed, frontline troops had doubled, Defense Line 9 had ended, and Defense Line 8 had fallen completely. He was stunned. The situation was absolutely catastrophic. Whether in the sky or on the ground, the frontline forces were losing ground to the alien races. Aunt Wang added that the son of Loi Fat, a level 7 super, had his arm broken and was barely clinging to life. Aunt Wang sighed and said the level 6 flame giant had sacrificed himself. He looked up in worry, not expecting the front line to collapse even earlier than it did in his previous life. Nam Tu Thang received news from Aunt Wang that the final assassination mission against the officers had been concluded 2 days ago. The fat officer died due to demonic disturbance, so the trial head of Nghiet Than wasn't held responsible. Aunt Wang paused for a beat, her expression suddenly turning heavy as she said there was one more important thing. Noticing her voice drop, he immediately asked what it was. Aunt Wang then called Xiao Liu and everyone else into the room. Xiao Liu hobbled over on crutches and announced on behalf of the group that all the staff, including the reinforcement team, had unanimously voted him as the station chief of the Nghiet Than trial substation. Xiao Liu stepped up to the bed to read the appointment decision. The sudden rush of information made him freeze, his mind going completely blank, not knowing how to react. Seeing his awkwardness, Tulu laughed and said this was everyone's acknowledgement. Auntie Wang also admitted her mistake, hoping he would be generous. She stood there beaming and added that from now on, they couldn't call him Comrade Little Nam anymore, but had to address him as Station Chief Nam. The whole room looked at him, cheering him on to do his best. Tiu Lu turned to him and added that the tasks assigned by the higher-ups were heavier than before. Half of the station's manpower had been transferred away, yet the supplies needed for production had doubled. According to her, everyone had been working continuously without eating or sleeping. Tu Lu was worried about how many people would be left in Nghiep City after another month. After hearing the report, he silently calculated that the workers' efficiency couldn't be increased further. The only person who could shoulder the burden was him, with his level 7 beast-taming talent and level 6 Asura form. Combining beast-taming skills with attribute/skills could double the efficiency. He sat there deep in thought, finding a way to maintain progress while letting the workers work normally. The corner of his mouth twitched up slightly. The plan was still to drain Lam Hu Tai's resources dry before dealing with him. The station chief identity gave him room to maneuver. Tu Lu couldn't think of a solution and was about to go file a complaint in frustration. but he immediately stopped her, saying he already had a plan. That statement made everyone around the bed freeze, their eyes filled with surprise. Tu Lu was worried about his health, thinking the pressure of the new position was making him force himself to endure. He silently got out of bed, stood up straight, and said he knew everyone was worried, but asked them to please trust that he would complete the mission. That firmness reassured the whole room, and they all responded by agreeing to speed up the progress. While the cheers were still echoing, a black shadow suddenly flashed past outside the door. With his level 6 spiritual power at close range, he immediately detected something unusual. That speed definitely didn't belong to anyone in the station. He rushed out the door to give chase, but the moment he got outside, the black shadow had vanished. He turned around, scanning all 4 directions to look for tracks. While he was searching, a gun muzzle pointed at his back from behind, and a cold voice rang out, saying he had some nerve chasing her out here. The woman behind him warned him not to move and forced him to answer her questions. He froze, not knowing when she had appeared behind him. The girl had dark brown hair and a seductive figure. Keeping the gun steady, she asked about Lam Hu Tai's order, the quantity of the next batch, and the delivery location. He calmly replied that she should ask his side directly about that. Seeing that his words seemed evasive, she frowned and questioned him, asking if they weren't on the same side, demanding he answer truthfully immediately. He noticed her breathing rhythm and gaze shift slightly. A moment of vulnerability had just been exposed. He activated his Asura talent and spun around to counterattack. The girl immediately retracted her hand and retreated, using agile movement techniques to dodge the blow. She fired the gun, and the bullet flew straight toward his hand. His hand met the bullet head-on, leaving only a few light scratches. He closed in, reminding her that he and Anicaps City were not accomplices of Lam Hu Tai. Seeing that he was still maintaining an offensive stance, she took another step back and asked why Anicaps City was helping him. Realizing she was on the same side, he withdrew his killing intent, dusted off his clothes, and said it was just an order from superiors that they were forced to obey. He added that whether Lam Hu Tai was a parasite or a traitor, right now, he was still their superior. Realizing he was straightforward and upright, she proactively reached out her hand to propose cooperation, introducing herself as Truong Vien from the 2nd Intelligence Unit of the 8th Defense Line Supply Team. He looked at the outstretched hand, observed in silence, and then coldly refused. Truong Vien looked at him with suspicion, thinking he didn't shake hands because he wanted to protect the bad guys. He kept a stern face, looked straight at her, and retorted, affirming that Lam Hu Tai would definitely be dealt with, but it wasn't the right time yet. Actually, he didn't agree because she was only thinking about overthrowing Lam Hu Tai while ignoring the consequences. His reminder made Truong Vien waver, and she asked him what exactly he meant. He seriously analyzed the situation, pointing out that there were currently only 2 ways to eliminate Lam Hu Tai: assassination or internal whistleblowing. If she chose assassination but the opponent wasn't just one person, how would she silence everyone? With her status, a failed assassination would leave behind massive consequences. Hearing the analysis, Truong Vien felt enlightened. Realizing her previous thinking was too immature, he put his hands in his pockets, stepped closer, and spoke about the second path. Internal processing would take time, and since humanity had just suffered a defeat, rumors of infighting in the rear would cause the front lines to misunderstand that the internal structure was cracking. At that point, a chain reaction was easy to predict. The rear would fall into chaos. He even thought about the scene of elderly people abandoning this place. Truong Vien listened, sighed, and shook her head. Looking at him to ask what the right thing to do was, he simply said, "I'll handle this." His answer startled her, and she immediately changed her attitude, closing in with a look of disdain. Even she couldn't resolve it, so how could a deserter like him handle it? He suddenly unleashed his killing intent. His power and aura skyrocketed. his eyes turning deep black as he looked straight at Truong Vian, reminding her of their brief exchange earlier. Under that pressure, she couldn't help but flinch. Truong Vian recalled the file she held on him and his transformation in just 1 week. That difference made her hesitate, suspecting that he possessed a continuously strengthening ability. Nam Tu Thang retracted his aura, cutting off Truong Vian's train of thought. He warned her not to act on her own accord and guaranteed that he would personally deal with Lam Hu Tai. Truong Vian was wary upon hearing that but still nodded. She warned him that he had to succeed. He turned to leave, promising the job would be done, and before going, he instructed her to clean up the mutant beast after the guy was dealt with. Truong Vian froze at that request and immediately asked how many more mutant beasts he needed, because his current strength, even if placed on the battlefield, wasn't weak at all. She emphasized that she needed to confirm he absolutely wouldn't harm humanity and to clarify the stance he was taking. He turned his head to look at her with a cold gaze, affirming that he stood on the side of humanity. However, relying only on his current strength wasn't enough to wipe them all out. After speaking, he turned and walked away, waving his hand casually. Truong Vian stood there worrying. He made people feel uneasy, but his eyes held no deceit. In the end, she chose to believe him. A few days later in Nungiep City, Lam Hu Tai publicly praised him for the previous mission, saying it was not only safe, but also completed excellently. He urged everyone to try hard for this round. As he walked and discussed business, behind him, Tu Lu and Auntie Wang complained about the mutant beast level. This mission involved facing beast nearing level 5, which was much harder. Tu Lu stepped forward to remind him that he had been injured in the previous mission and asked for a plan, but he reassured her that he could still take it. He signed the mission confirmation while Lam Hu Tai stood nearby laughing heartily, already calculating the profits in his head. To him, this guy was not only stronger than the dead fat guy, but also didn't cost a penny. Recently, the intelligence group had also been quiet and wasn't causing trouble. The failure at the front lines caused military supply orders to skyrocket. He saw this as a golden ticket to get rich, grinning from ear to ear just thinking about it. He slapped him on the shoulder, saying to just ask if he needed support, and reminded him to do a bang-up job next time. He turned a deaf ear to his words and immediately coordinated everyone to get to work. As soon as the order was given, the whole station responded, and the work rhythm instantly became lively and intense. Lam Hu Tai watched how he commanded and wiped his mouth, smiling with satisfaction. He said that Ngiep Than gave him peace of mind. He didn't reply, waiting until the man was far away before letting out a soft laugh and activating his aura. In his eyes, the high-level exotic beasts that Lam Hu Tai had gathered were nothing more than nutrients for his talent. He activated his Asura Alloy Evil Blade talent and advanced deep into the beast processing area. Ferocious red-eyed beasts charged at him. He shifted into a combat stance, activated his skills, and killing intent overflowed from his weapon. He rushed forward, his Asura killing intent surging violently, while the system continuously flashed notifications. Asura killing intent points plus 1.5. Asura killing intent points plus 1.5. His eyes glowed red, his aura churning. Wave after wave of beasts was wiped out. His talent leveled up, and a notification popped up. Asura reached level 6, progress 16 over 7.20. On March 20th, the Eagle Nation's defense line number 8 fought for 4 hours. 800,000 soldiers died in battle. 50,000 ability users fell, and the battlefront collapsed. He never stopped fighting in the trial zone. His red eyes locked onto targets, while the Alloy Evil Blade and Asura Violent Slayer operated continuously to finish off the beasts. On March 22nd, the Baksu Yen defense line number 8 shattered. 10 alien races flooded into Bakbangsu Yen, and 600,000 soldiers sacrificed their lives. Chaos reigned outside, but he continued to complete his mission. By March 24th, the Nambangjiang Defense Line Number 8 encountered the Iron Race. In just 1 hour, 500,000 soldiers were killed in action. His skills grew ceaselessly in combat, and by this time, he had mastered the alloy demon blade. On March 26th, the French Defense Line and the Kawasaki Defense Line Number 8 collapsed within half an hour. The battlefield was strewn with bodies, but the will to exterminate the myriad races remained. Only then did he stop leveling up, standing still to channel power as 2 streams of red and black energy swirled around his body. He chanted a spell in a low voice, unleashing his full aura. The Asura returned, and the surrounding beasts trembled in fear. The Asura reached its limit, and he triggered the Hell on Earth state. Red aura exploded and spread in all directions. When the beasts saw it, they panicked and backed away. His gaze was as cold as the Grim Reaper's as it swept over the herd of beasts, and his voice rang out, full of provocation. He pointed his sword at the monsters. The aura from the blade looked like it wanted to swallow everything whole. Power erupted in a split second, wiping out the beasts in front of him. The strength far exceeded what he had before. He stood atop a pile of beast corpses and retracted the Asura back to its original form. The blue crystal hovering in midair exhilarated him. The number of source stones he collected was enough to tame monsters again. He mentioned Lam Hu Tai with cold killing intent, thinking that the man might have money, but he wouldn't have a life to spend it. When he walked out of the trial room, everyone was listening intently to the announcement. Defense Line Number 8 was now only held by the Eastern Alliance, the United States, and the Mao Nation. The Eastern Alliance launched a social conscription, lowering the age to 16. Covered in injuries, he stood listening, his mind calculating a new plan because the front lines were collapsing faster than predicted. Asura was just the strength of one person. Aunt Vuong turned around, startled to see him standing behind her, just as she asked him something. Lam Hu Tai also walked up, checking the time while praising him. He was extremely satisfied because the mission efficiency had skyrocketed, and he even hinted at asking what position he wanted to be promoted to. His eyes overflowed with murderous intent, and he bluntly spoke Lam Hu Tai's name, causing the man to startle and stammer. The bodyguard beside him also broke into a sweat. Only then did he smile lightly, his coldness fading. He suggested that tonight he go to the northern wasteland Qua Bitch to pick up a pack of iron giant wolves and then return to Nghiep Than, adding that he must deal with the exotic beasts quickly. Lam Hu Tai, having just escaped a terrifying moment, felt relieved. He forced a smile and praised him for being decisive and having vision. Suddenly, he bowed his head to thank Lam Hu Tai, nearly making the man's heart skip a beat again. He thought to himself that if Nam Tu Thang dared to joke around, he would send him to meet his maker right away. Nam Tu Thang looked up, stole a glance, and laughed inwardly. With invaders outside and parasites like you inside, even death wouldn't wipe away your sins. At the northern wasteland Qua Bish, on a night with a full moon, Nam Tu Thang, dressed in cool gear, stood amidst the cold snow, looking even more attractive. He gazed into the distance, remembering his past life. As soon as high-level ability users awakened, the myriad races would plot to assassinate them, so he reminded himself to be more cautious. He looked at the pack of wolves he had once tamed and ordered them to call the surrounding packs. Howls echoed like a transmission, and then thousands of wolves streamed out from the canyon, one after another. He glanced at the information panel that popped up. At that same moment, Lam Hu Tai's convoy drove past. The driver reported to Lam Hu Tai that he detected 1,000 mutated wolves within teleportation range ahead. In the back seat, Lam Hu Tai was groping the juicy peach of the sexy lady beside him, while ordering his henchmen to teleport the wolves into the nano cages. Suddenly, a noise made him startle and turn around. The familiar bodyguard by his side looked out the car window, mumbling in a trembling voice as he saw tens of thousands of iron giant wolves surrounding them. Lam Hu Tai panicked, looking at 7 giant wolves that he had received no warning about. He immediately shouted for his men to teleport back to safety. The bodyguard broke out in a sweat and reported the bad news. They could only teleport within a range of 1 kilometer, but the beast tide stretched for at least several kilometers. The only way to survive was to charge straight ahead and break the encirclement. Lam Hu Tai's face turned pale, and he ordered them to do it immediately. Standing afar, Nam Tu Thang saw them rushing past and knew his moment had arrived. He planned to let the wolf boss take action and send those 2 insects on their way. After commanding the giant wolf, he activated his divine beast talent. Power spread out, overtaking the fleeing convoy and washing over the wild wolves. They felt the authority and gradually began to transform. The system displayed a panel: Beast Tamer Level 7, quantity of tamed Level 5 Iron Giant Wolves, over 101,000, Source Stones for Taming, 0, Tamable Level, 6, Progress, 170,000 out of 270,000. Inside the convoy, someone cheered when they saw the wolf pack showing signs of stopping, thinking there might be a beast tamer up ahead. Lam Hu Tai looked through the glass, grinning like a madman, thinking this was perfect. His bodyguard remained suspicious since Engyep Than had never seen such a skilled beast tamer. But Lam Hu Tai insisted this was a hidden master and ordered the driver to pull over so he could ask for a favor, not giving them a chance to celebrate. Nam Tu Thang channeled his power and ordered the 100,000 steel giant wolves to crush the convoy, making sure not a single car slipped through. Receiving the command, the pack of giant wolves immediately charged straight at Lam Hu Tai's convoy. Inside the car, someone sensed something was wrong, looked back, and assumed the taming attempt had failed, or the wolves were being counter-surrounded by a beast tide. Lam Hu Tai screamed in panic, ordering them to use firepower to suppress the wolves. The men poked their heads out to unleash a hail of gunfire, shielding Lam Hu Tai's car as they aimed their weapons down at the rushing giant wolves. But the giant wolves were too numerous. The men struggled in vain as they were suffocated by the sheer pressure of the pack. Many wolves threw their bodies against the vehicle, making it shake violently. Inside, chaos reigned as the bodyguard screamed a warning that Lam Hu Tai was in grave danger. Lam Hu Tai turned pale with fright and hurriedly ordered them to get him to safety, just as a stream of black aura wrapped around his neck. At the exact same moment, another giant wolf used its massive body to send his car flying. However, the bodyguard managed to teleport both of them a few meters away from the car just in time. Seeing this, the wolves howled loudly, as if calling for reinforcements. The bodyguard finally activated his power skill, threatening to show the giant wolves just how terrifying a level 5 skill user could be. He condensed a dark aura and blasted it toward the beasts, utilizing a nano-shifting cage. A group of wolves was teleported a few meters away, but wave after wave kept coming. Lam Hu Tai was useless, standing behind giving orders, so with the nano cage reaching its limit, the bodyguard used a city-grade teleportation skill. Then, he and Lam Hu Tai warped to the designated location, but the spot they landed on had already been trapped by Nam Tu Thang. Seeing them arrive, he spoke in a cold voice from behind, saying he had finally waited long enough, and they were much slower than he predicted. Hearing the voice, Lam Hu Tai and his bodyguard shuddered and turned around. The man took off his hood and gave a curt introduction, Nam Tu Thang. Lam Hu Tai looked at him and immediately suspected the wolves from earlier were under his command, vaguely guessing that this man wanted him dead. Tu Thang unleashed an incredibly powerful aura, effectively confirming the man's suspicion. He threatened Lam Hu Tai, saying that if he dared to touch him, then tomorrow, not just him, but his entire family would die a miserable death. Then he rushed forward to strangle Lam Hu Tai. Moving so fast the bodyguard couldn't react. Lam Hu Tai was being strangled to the point of suffocation, but he still tried to gasp out the bodyguard's name. Seeing this, the bodyguard immediately opened a teleportation gate, intending to save Lam Hu Tai, not letting them escape. Nam Tu Thang unleashed the Asura Dragon Killer, a move that condensed the Asura spirit to build a defense and control space, causing the bodyguard's skill to be interrupted and rendered useless. Only then did the bodyguard realize that Nam Tu Thang was a high-tier ability user. Nam Tu Thang gripped the bodyguard's hand tightly until the bones were crushed, making him scream in agony. With a single punch, he blew the man's head apart in a spray of blood, killing him right in front of Lam Hu Tai. Seeing this, Lam Hu Tai tried to beg for mercy. Before he could finish his sentence, the young man let go, and his body plummeted straight down. Down below, what awaited him were the cold, white fangs of the giant wolf pack, sharp as knives. Lam Hu Tai screamed in despair before vanishing, following in the footsteps of his bodyguard during this ability assessment mission. While taking a shower, a woman suddenly felt a violent surge of energy rising from Yep Than. She immediately confirmed that the sensation from a few days ago was real. The strongest ability user had appeared in Yep Than, and his name was Tulan, a level 5 sensory user. So she stopped showering, got dressed, and prepared to report to the investigation bureau. Amidst the freezing blizzard, the convoy stopped in the middle of a white wasteland. A deep voice resonated, saying the door was open. It was safe now, and they could come out. As soon as the door popped open, the wolf pack rushed down. Their cold gazes locked onto the man waiting for them. But then their attitude suddenly changed, and they approached to rub their heads against his legs, making him laugh and whisper that it was enough, and to stop licking. One wolf refused to stop, its tongue lolling out. The man's eyes suddenly turned blood red, and an explosive pressure burst forth as he dropped a command cold as ice. "Sit still." The whole pack was startled. They immediately flattened their ears and sat in silence. So seeing that, he just sighed and laughed helplessly, saying he really gave up on them. His gaze swept over the wolf pack, filled with satisfaction, and his voice was deep and warm as he told them they did a great job this time. He walked slowly, patting each one on the head, laughing as he said there were rewards for everyone, so don't rush. The pack wagged their tails in anticipation, looking thoroughly satisfied. But suddenly, he jumped onto the car, his face turning serious as he announced a new mission starting. His voice rang out decisively. "Head to the North Wasteland. Hunt origin stones for me." The moon hung high, casting silver light over his figure amidst the wind and snow, as the wolf pack howled in unison, ready for action. The scene shifted to the Ninghyep Than slaughterhouse, covered in thick snow. Truong Vian walked up, her voice heavy as she told Nam Tu Thang that Lam Hu just received news his team was wiped out by North Wasteland beasts, but he just bowed his head, casually eating a steamed bun. Truong Vian didn't let it go. She looked him straight in the eye and asked if he had anything to do with this. With a calm expression, he shrugged and replied, He only said he wanted to hunt a few variant beasts." Truong Vian's eyes went wide, asking if he could even control monsters. He placed a finger on his lips and smiled softly, saying, "Shh, it's a secret." His answer made her even more flustered. A moment later, she changed the subject, saying that this morning she submitted all the evidence regarding Lam Hu's embezzlement, and his assets were about to be confiscated. He swallowed the rest of his bun and replied indifferently, "Oh, good." Truong Vian smiled and offered to buy him a drink as a thank you, but he chewed and declined, saying a drink is fine, but if it's about work, then no. And then he suddenly stopped walking. He turned back to look at her, flashing a meaningful smile. His voice dropped to a low rumble as he said, "If you really want to thank me, there is another way you could do it." Truong Vian felt a bit uneasy. She forced a smile and asked, "What way?" Nam Tu Thang gave a thumbs up, his eyes full of teasing amusement. "I want to turn this place into the biggest slaughterhouse in Ngiap City. We will accept 10 times, maybe even 100 times more mutated poultry." His bold proposal made her sigh, but she eventually nodded. The front lines are short on resources, so the higher-ups will probably agree. The scene shifts to the next day at workshop number 4, where the corpses of mutated beasts covered the entire surface of the water. Nam Tu Thang finished his work and gripped his sword, his gaze cold and focused. Moving the slaughterhouse here to harvest origin stones was definitely the right move. Dark red energy began to swirl around his body. The carcasses of the animals piled up into a mountain. He looked at his hand and whispered softly, "With the capture of the giant steel wolves, monsters will soon flood this place." 2 days later, the system chimed with a notification. Beast Tamer Level 7. Giant Steel Wolf Count, 10,000. Origin Stones, 190,000. Progress, 17 over 270,000. The scene shifts to the northern wasteland desert, where his voice rang out with immense power. Everyone bears a share of responsibility for the rise and fall of this world. Today, I, of the Nam Tu Battalion, stand with you to hold the northern wasteland and protect the Blue Star. The system continued to report. Beast Tamer Level 8. Level 5, Giant Steel Wolves increased to 50,000. Origin Stones, 150,000. Progress, 24 over 540,000. As the desert stretched out endlessly, the moon gradually turned crimson. A chilling light signaled a coming storm of blood. From the distance, countless giant red-eyed yaks charged forward like a hurricane, aiming straight for him. Nam Tu Thang remained calm. He raised his right hand, shooting out sharp red energy, and his voice rang out coldly. Level 6, Tibetan Yak. Tame. Power radiated outward. A strong ring of energy swept through the herd of yaks, causing their bodies to freeze in mid-air amidst the blinding dust and sand. Strange streaks of light flashed across their skin, the sign of submission. One by one, they prostrated themselves before him. He raised his hand and commanded, "Guard the white bone plains and hunt origin stones for me. Do not harm humans. Do not attack cities. Always be ready when called." Upon receiving the order, the herd of yaks dispersed. The system panel chimed. Beast Tamer Level 8. Giant Iron Wolves, 50,000. Level 6 Tibetan Yaks, 50,000. Origin Stones, 100,000. Progress, 74 over 540,000. The northern wasteland desert appeared with the formation fully set. Iron wolves protected the outer perimeter, while the white bone plains were guarded by the Tibetan yaks. In the splitting river canyon, Nam Tu Thang walked through the battlefield, his mind calculating rapidly. I still have 100,000 origin stones, enough to tame a level 7 mutated ape. The aura here far exceeded the previous groups. The blood moon tore through the clouds, dyeing the entire space in red. A giant ape suddenly lunged down from above, its claws slashing out. Nam Tu Thang narrowed his eyes, flashing a brief look of appreciation. Fast speed, and the momentum is strong enough. 2. Before the ape could close in, Nam Tu Thang burst forth with aura and shouted, "Tame!" He swung his hand powerfully, knocking the monster back, sending its massive body rolling away. He took a deep breath, feeling a bit relieved, and muttered, "Still within the taming limit?" Before he could stabilize, a series of shadows plunged down from above, the wind whistling loudly in their wake. Nam Tu Thang looked up, his eyes flashing with wariness, his body tensed up. Suddenly, a heavy weight crushed down on his back. He spun around. The monster he had just defeated was opening its mouth, growling right in front of his face. A ferocious aura washed over him. He lowered his voice. Impossible. Disbelief was written all over his face. Taming failed. His blood boiled. He channeled more power and shouted, "Beat first, tame later." He thrust his sword forward, knocking the monster away, and roared, "Asura, violent slaughterer." The blade hit the ground, sending out shockwaves that blasted earth and rocks into the air. The system displayed a notification. Level 8 Beast Tamer skill activated. Nam Tu Thang's hand radiated a ring of blazing red energy, causing the space around him to tremble slightly. Furious roars echoed as herds of violent apes appeared, their eyes filled with agitation. Hearing the roars, his expression darkened. So, this is the cause. Not wanting to be surrounded, he leapt backward, dodging a vicious attack. Too many level 7 apes. Killing them is a waste, and it drains my energy for nothing. I have to deal with the one pulling the strings first. Having made up his mind, he turned into a red streak and shot straight up into the sky. In midair, his hand tightened around a rope, and his aura enveloped his entire body. He looked down and chuckled softly. Strength isn't bad. Another ape suddenly latched onto his back. He shook his head and spun around, causing the two apes to collide and fall. The ape lost its grip, panic setting in. Immediately after, it gritted its teeth and let out a fierce roar. Nam Tu Thang stood firm, holding his blade with a smile. This thing works pretty well. Before he could catch his breath, another one sneak attacked him. He jumped up to dodge it neatly, landed, and said in a cold voice, "You guys are underestimating your new master." He dashed forward, his speed moving beyond the range of sight. He stopped, his voice booming, "Show yourself." From the shadows, a massive entity stepped out, the night clinging to its form. Its red eyes glowed as a deep, cold voice spoke. The ruler has changed masters. Facing that imposing presence, he still smirked. "You sure are big." The pressure from the Ape King was far superior, freezing the very air. If not for his Asura power, he would have been forced to his knees. Nam Tu Thang unleashed his own pressure to counterattack, using all his strength. His sword blocked the giant hand, leaving his arm numb from the impact. So fast, he thought to himself. The Ape King opened its mouth and closed in, but he managed to withdraw his sword just in time. The thought barely crosses his mind, trying to swallow me whole. My blade erupts with terrifying pressure. He triggers the power of the Asura explosive pill, sending a shockwave through the Ape King and forcing the beast to retreat. The black claws press in close as the massive body leaps into the air, shaking the very earth. The strike crashes down, cracking the ground wide open and leaving a deep crater in its wake. A moment later, Nam Tu Thang crawls out, coughing lightly from the dust, but the Ape King is already back, his killing intent undiminished. Anger ignites within him, though the pain lingers, and he grits his teeth, his voice low and cold. "If I do not teach you a lesson, you will underestimate me." Asura living hell form, red energy surging like a tide. He rips off his jacket as killing intent explodes, spiritual energy swirling around his body like a widening tornado of power. The scene shifts to the ability measurement room where an employee sighs. "Hey, are you sure that sensation earlier was accurate? It is past 3 in the morning. How can you stand this every day?" The pink-haired girl crosses her arms while the blonde watches the device and replies, "That aura was not a mistake. I am Tulan, a sensory ability user, and headquarters ordered us to monitor Nhyepthan for a few days." She turns back to remind her gently, "We are the same age. Do not call me big sister." But the pink-haired girl huffs, "Look, calling you that is already plenty polite of me." The atmosphere suddenly grows tense as the moon reveals itself behind the thick fog. Tulan keeps a straight face and whispers, "It is coming. Prepare to track immediately. Target Nhyepthan, Light Zuyin Canyon." Triokani nods, clasping her hands together as spiritual energy rotates and she chants the tracking spell. She is a level 5 sensory ability user. Her eyes snap open, her pupils transforming into the 8 trigram symbols as a strange light flares up. Back on the battlefield, Nam Tu Thang uses the Living Hell ability to suppress the ape horde. A pillar of red light tearing through the sky as sword energy explodes. The Ape King only has time to open his mouth to roar before the pain chokes him into silence. A decisive sword strike knocks him backward, causing his massive body to lose its footing. Nam Tu Thang looks like he has transformed, his glowing red eyes cold and fangs bared with killing intent, launching himself like a red tornado. While on the other side, Triokani suddenly falls backward, her eyes going blank. Talan rushes over in a panic to support her friend, her voice urgent. Kani, wake up. What did you see? Triokani's pupils gradually return to normal, her face pale, sweat mixing with tears as she trembles, gasping in horror. It was terrifying. He is the Asura demon. Nam Tu Thang delivers another heavy slash, his eyes radiating power, then stops to look at the Ape King kneeling before him and asks coldly, "Do you submit yet?" His aura still suffocating, leaving the Ape King battered, bleeding, eyes rolled back, and frozen in fear. He stands firm, his sword steady, his voice taunting. "If you do not submit, then we continue. But I cannot promise I will go easy on you this time." See. The Ape King coughs dryly and spits out more blood, his vision blurry but still holding a glint of stubbornness. Nam Tu Thang looks at him, the red in his eyes fading as he sighs. "You have guts. It would be a waste for you to die." Lowering his voice, he adds, "Become my comrade, and we will rule over the 10,000 tribes together," causing the Ape King's eyes to suddenly light up. He lowers his face, staring at the small but imposing figure standing before him. Between two warriors who just fought to the death, a silence falls, heavy with the weight of consideration. The Ape King slowly raises a fist as large as a hammer, stopping right in front of him, and he laughs, extending his own fist to bump it hard, exclaiming excitedly, "A creature with intelligence." The aura around Nam Tu Thang gradually dissipates, and his face returns to normal. He sheathes his sword neatly, his commanding voice ringing out, "1,000,000 violent apes, hear my order. From now on, the Ape King leads you. Occupy the Lietzuyan Valley. Gather origin stones. Do not attack the city. Do not harm humans." And the apes under his command watch his every word, ready to obey. The moonlight shines through the mountain crevices, darkness and light wrestling for dominance, the air taut as a violin string. The system displays a report: Level 8 Beast Tamer, 500,000 Level 5 Giant Iron Wolves, 50,000 Level 6 Tibetan Yaks, 1,000,000 Level 7 Violent Apes, Level 0 Beast Tamer Origin Stones, Level 7 Beast Tamer, 174 out of 540,000. Layout: the Northern Wilderness holds 500,000 Level 5 Giant Iron Wolves and 50,000 Level 6 Tibetan Yaks, while Lietzuyan Canyon holds 1,000,000 Level 7 Violent Apes. Meanwhile, at the Ability Investigation Bureau, it is night. Talan leans back in her chair, exhausted but still thinking about yesterday. She says, "Kani, after last night I still sensed a massive abnormal energy source, but Triokani regulates her breathing and replies, thinking back, that 24-hour ability can only be used once for 3 seconds. You could not have used up all that energy." Talan turns to her with a helpless look. "You know that is not what I meant. I just think the 2 abnormal energy sources from before might belong to the same person." Hearing this, Triokani panics. "That is impossible. You know how long we have been probing. The 10th rank of the East has always been left empty for the mysterious clan." But Tulan continues. "Yet Tula just arrived and took 10th place. The single target energy was too massive." Triokani sighs. "You are right. Maybe I am overthinking it. Just publish the list." The system continues to push the ability rankings, attracting countless eyes with a new update. Ranks 1 through 9 pending announcement. Rank 10 is the mysterious black-robed man. Asura ability, level unknown. Rank 11 is Lambang Ningung. Elemental ability, level 8. Rank 12 is So Thien. Space ability, level 8. The next morning, shocking news spreads that a mysterious man in black appeared at Lietzuyan Canyon in Nat Than, his destructive power ranking straight into the top 10 of the Eastern Alliance, causing the whole place to buzz with discussion. An account from the East comments, "The final top 10 are finally being announced. Years ago, I only heard the West had Asura users. Who knew the East had them too? Asura powers are terrifying. Killing to prove one's path easily drives the user insane. I hope he is not from Hypthan because the men there are all on the front lines. While another chimes in, better to be a crazy ghost than stay in the southern death camp. The comments getting harsher as everyone worries that power will become a danger to the region. At the slaughterhouse, Tulu hands a towel to Nam Tu Thang, reminding him to wipe his face, while also letting him know his phone is still ringing. He barely takes the towel before the screen in front of him flashes a notification. The United States and Russia have failed one after another, and defense line number 8 has been breached. The news anchor on television continues. To protect the homeland, defense line number 5 of the Eastern Alliance has initiated the policy to recall veterans, and Nam Tu Thang breaks into a sweat, feeling uneasy. We are losing faster in this life. Even the recall order has come early. His phone suddenly lights up, showing a message from his mother. The message reads, "Stinky brat. If you are free tonight, then come home for dinner. Your mother and I miss you." Nam Tu Thang sighs lightly before deciding to head back. At his home, Nam Vian Son is busy cooking and speaks gently. "I apologize to the journalists. My son and daughter are coming home tonight, so I am preparing a few dishes to treat them. Sorry to keep everyone waiting." Then he takes off his apron and laughs. "If you do not mind, let us eat together when they arrive." But the female reporter holds her microphone and replies politely, "You are too kind, sir. We only want to discuss the veteran recall policy." Nam Vien Son lowered his voice, his face turning serious, saying, "I am ready. Go ahead and ask." Phuong Lei, a reporter for the Eastern Alliance, stood before the live camera and said, "Greetings, Mr. Nam Vien Son. I heard that as soon as you received the news, you immediately signed up. What were your thoughts at that moment?" He answered with a serious expression. "The responsibility is there, and I cannot deny it." But Phuong Lei continued to press, asking, "So, regarding your son, Nam Tu Doan, who publicly refused to enlist, what are your thoughts on that?" Hearing this, a look of discomfort flashed across Nam Vien Son's face. Just then, 3 people walked in, and the woman leading the way carrying a bag of groceries asked, "Dai Hung, I just got back to the subdivision entrance and ran into Tio Doan and Tio Jian." Seeing the scene inside the room, she froze and asked, "Are you doing an interview?" Nam Vien Son turned around cheerfully and said, "Everyone is back. Sit at the table. I will answer a few questions and then join you." She nodded, saying, "All right then. Everyone, please continue." Nam Vien Son turned back to speak to Phuong Lei, saying, "Comrade reporter, as everyone can see, this is my family, and we have not gathered together for several months." He introduced them, saying, "My wife is a volunteer at the office. The person entering the kitchen is Tan Tuyet Mai, the mother of the male lead." He continued introducing, "My daughter is a rescue doctor, an awakened ability user, the older sister of Tu Doan, named Nam Tu Jian." Then he looked at Nam Tu Thang, who was silent by the dining table, and said, "My son does not go to the battlefield but still works at the slaughterhouse, providing supplies for the front line. In my heart, he is a good child." Nam Vien Son looked at his son with pride and continued, "Whatever he does is fine. As long as it does not go against morality, I will always support him." And that statement made Phuong Lei slightly surprised. Meanwhile, Nam Tu Thang remained silent, but deep inside, a single phrase popped up, "Silly dad." Suddenly, Phuong Lei raised her voice, asking, "Mr. Nam Tu Doan, the number 8 defense line has fallen, and I heard many of your classmates have sacrificed themselves. Can you share your feelings?" Nam Vien Son froze and then growled, "Enough. Stop pressuring him." He turned to Phuong Lei, his voice cold, saying, "When registering for the veteran draft, I was assigned to line number 6, but I personally applied for line number 7. Is that qualified enough yet?" And his fierce attitude made her choke on her words, falling completely silent. Nam Vien Son continued to shout, "My son does not go to the front line, but slaughtering mutated beasts is also dangerous. The front line receives the largest supply from us. Is that not a contribution? You people do not report on this, sitting in the rear, writing all day. So what is the meaning of media?" Nam Tu Son intervened with annoyance, saying, "If that is not enough, then there is still me." I just submitted an application to be a volunteer medic at Defense Line number 7, and his mother also said firmly, if that is still not acceptable, I will go in place of my son. The room fell into a silence, heavy as a stone. A moment later, Nam Vien Son lowered his voice, saying, sorry for the disturbance. We should leave now. Nam Tu Thang clenched his fists, his face darkening. He called out, Dad, then abruptly stood up, looking at everyone, his voice cold, saying, I will go with everyone. His mother worriedly asked, Tio Doan, it is this late. Where are you going? His sister also looked on. Nam Tu Thang bowed his head and replied, everyone just eat. My factory has some work that needs handling. Tan Tuyet Mai asked anxiously, what happened? Can you not go after finishing your meal? Nam Vien Son sat still and sighed, saying, let him go. He has his responsibilities. Anyway, we have met. Nam Tu Thang stepped out the door and, hearing that, he remained silent. The scene shifted to the primeval forest, where light struggled to penetrate. Pitch black. Nam Tu Thang held a sword, running and swinging sharp strikes, speaking with clarity. There is still time tonight. He looked back at the scattered war elephants. An idea popped up. He stopped in a clearing and shouted loudly, stop hiding! Come out here! Immediately, a giant war elephant revealed itself, the ground shaking, debris flying. A long trunk slammed down, snapping a large tree in half. Nam Tu Thang drew his sword, slashing out a wave of sword energy. The sword energy sliced through the tree trunk, simultaneously severing the trunk of the war elephant. It roared, tears flowing. It threw its head back to resist, but he had already jumped onto its head, his voice cold. Today I must make the most of the time. Energy radiated from him, swirling into a red ring of aura encompassing the war elephant, making its eyes gradually turn glowing red. Gradually, it was suppressed by the taming power of Nam Tu Thang. He placed his sword on its forehead, commanding, go inform your companions. Anyone who refuses to submit will be cut down without mercy. The war elephant broke into a sweat, terrified, but obedient. It rushed deep into the forest without daring to hesitate. Not long after, a dozen giant war elephants appeared, rushing forward like a waterfall. A call rang out from amidst the herd of elephants, causing them to widen their eyes in panic, shouting, stupid, protect, life. Nam Tu Thang stood blocking their path, his aura shaking the space. He shouted with authority, 1,000,000 war elephants, listen to the order. His hand reached out, power surging, his face gradually turning sharp and cold. Guard the primeval forest sea, collect origin stones, and always be ready. The system immediately reported, Beast Tamer level 8, number of tamed beasts 3 million, Beast Taming level 7, Beast Taming origin stones 0, upgrade progress 274 out of 5,400,000. The notification continued to list the layout. Northern Wilderness 50,000 level 5 giant iron wolves, Whitebone Plains 50,000 level 6 Tibetan yaks, Liet Zuyen 100,000 level 7 violent apes, Primeval Dian Duong 100,000 level 7 war elephants, Formation Master deployed 0, Formation Origin Stones 1, Ability level 1, Ability upgrade points 10,000. Level 1 formations include Step Formation, Killing Aura Formation, Sword Energy Formation. Each formation consumes a base of 10 origin stones and can be stacked infinitely. Nam Tu Thang finished reading and blurted out, the talent tree for formations has finally lit up. I must upgrade quickly. Go back to the slaughterhouse to earn origin stones first. Behind him, countless tamed war elephants stood waiting. He turned his back and led them to the Ngyepthan slaughterhouse, where deformed corpses lay ready. The system reported again. Usable origin stones 100,000. Deployable formations 10,000. Nam Tu Thang tapped his hand while reading, saying, enough to upgrade. Let's try the sword energy formation first. Beast bones lay scattered across the ground, waiting to be activated. Nam Tu Thang closed his eyes and began to chant. heavenly stems and earthly branches. 10,000 things rise as swords. Following his words, countless sword energies appeared in the air, swirling into a furious ring. He shouted loudly, "Sword energy formation." The sword energy became thicker and thicker. The vortex accelerated, and each blade plunged down, tearing through the wind, aiming at the pile of bones below. But strangely, the bones remained motionless as if inanimate. Namtuthang got annoyed, refusing to accept that the level 1 sword energy formation was this weak. The damage was too low compared to expectations, and he did not allow himself to stop. He immediately channeled his spiritual power, his eyes flashing purple. Opening a new formation, he shouted, "Then, let's stack them." 2,000. Sword energy formations. As the words faded, bright beams of sword energy crossed over each other simultaneously, bringing down a heavy crushing force that filled the entire space with an oppressive aura. Threads of spiritual energy formed a ring beneath Namtuthang's feet to support him. He knew that if he covered the workshops with formations, the future workload at the slaughterhouse would be much lighter. But just then, a cold voice filled with murderous intent echoed from workshop number 2, saying, "Bullying the weak with power. 2,000 killing intent formations. Activate." But Namtuthang did not stop. He kept pushing forward, activating one formation after another in a continuous chain. 1 hour later, the system reported, "Formation Master has leveled up. You have arranged 10,000 formations. Ability leveled up to 2. Unlocked formations include the Scorching Frostfire Array, the Tenfold Stride Boost Array, and the Elemental Sword Energy Array." The system continued its report. Each formation consumes 200 Origin Stones and can be stacked infinitely. The next level up requires arranging 50,000 formations. Do you want to use Origin Stones? After the upgrade, Namtuthang felt a clear transformation but had no time to rest. As the sun peeked over the horizon and the first light of day swept away the darkness, Namtuthang sat on the rooftop of a high building, eating a steamed bun and thinking, "It is morning. Time to say goodbye to everyone and head to the front line." At that moment, Tu Lu walked up from behind and greeted everyone cheerfully. "Good morning, Aunt Vuong, Sister Lai, and Thien Truong." She hobbled in on crutches, looking confused as she entered, asking, "The door is open already. Did Director Nam stay up slaughtering all night again?" Sister Lai sighed deeply, saying, "That kid probably ate at home and came straight back to work. How can his body take that kind of strain?" Aunt Vuong snapped angrily. "It is all because of those nosy reporters spreading garbage." Sister Lai jumped and asked, "What news are you talking about?" Aunt Vuong held up her phone and pointed at the screen, saying, "Have you all not seen it? I watched the live stream all night." The dark circles under her eyes proved her lack of sleep. The news about Nam Tudoan was trending. The article said his father answered the call to duty and charged to defense line number 7, noting that ancient Mulan joined the army for her father, and now a father joins for his son. The post had 4,509 likes. Aunt Vuong was furious reading the comments, saying, "Keyboard warriors criticizing him. If you are so tough, you go do it." Someone wrote, "I cannot stand seeing Nam Tudoan being such a coward. If it were me, I would rather die in battle." That comment had 3,684 likes. Aunt Vuong snapped back, "Then why do you not go die in battle instead of sitting there running your mouth?" Someone else said his family spoiled him. Useless son, hero father. 2,813 likes. Aunt Vuong cursed again, saying, "Their family loves each other. Unlike you, miserable trolls with no parents." Tu Lu read it and could not contain her anger, typing furiously, saying, "They are really too much." Sister Lai looked worried and sighed, saying, "The director." Suddenly, a voice made all 3 of them jump and turn around. Namtuthang stepped out from the back and said, "Perfect timing. I wanted to hand over some things to you all." Tu Lu froze and asked, "Hand over? Director, do not tell me you want to leave." Namtuthang received a letter delivered by a man, feeling a surge of unease. He opened it and read, his heart growing heavier with every word. The letter read, "To Doan, by the time you get this, your sister and I will have already left for the battlefield. Dad knows explaining now would only upset you. So let us put it differently. Honor and glory start with family, then the country, and finally, all of humanity." The letter continued. "Dad is a god-tier chef, but also a soldier, so do not underestimate me. You are the same. I do not know what big plans you are hiding, but it must be something major, because since you were little, you never backed down from trouble. It is up to you. Ha 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 ha. You brat. That name Asuna on the leaderboard is you. Right. Did you think I would not recognize you just because you wore a mask? You have held back for so long. Can you not hold it in anymore? Do not worry about what people say outside. Most people have many faces. Son, anyone who brings shame to this family gets destroyed. Keep going and do not let your hard work go to waste. Your mother is in the city, and I will protect her for you. Take care. Signed, Namsun Hung." Namtuthang finished reading, his expression solemn. He could feel his father's love and resolve, but the thought of the battlefield filled him with hesitation. Tu Lu stood nearby and encouraged him, saying, "Manager, do not feel pressured." Sister Lai added, "That is right. Manager, are you not in charge of the slaughterhouse tasks for all the surrounding cities? If the supply cuts off, we are done for." Sister Lai advised further, saying, "You have to be strong. We all believe in you." Aunt Vuong stood by his side aggressively, saying, "Exactly. As long as Aunt Vuong is here, if anyone on the internet dares to talk trash about you, I will clap back at them." Nam Tu Thang turned to them, his eyes a bit sad, but he still smiled, saying, "Thank you, everyone. I am fine. I was just thinking about what you said." Tu Lu was surprised and asked, "Did you not say 2 days ago that you wanted to rebuild defense line number 5? Nam Tu Thang gave a slight smile and said, "Do not worry. It will not affect the slaughterhouse work." The scene shifted outside. Before a massive statue, people and vehicles were packed together. Nam Tu Thang stood in the middle of the crowd, speaking in a low voice. "Dad, I remember everything you said. You once said that if I went to the battlefield, I would at most kill a few alien races, and it would be hard to create any major benefit for the big picture. I could not protect Mom, and I could not help the family. If we win without a plan, humanity will still lose in the end, and I would not be able to save anyone. The 10,000 races are non-carbon-based life forms, so we cannot harvest origin stones from them, meaning leveling up on the battlefield is difficult. The enemy gets stronger while humanity just tries to survive, and without preparation, defeat is certain." Nam Tu Thang walked through the cold winter, telling himself, "To win, I must focus all my strength on building defense line number 5. That will be the final battlefield between humanity and the 10,000 races. Dad, I swear I will not let everyone down." 3 days later, at the bustling construction site, someone spoke up, saying, "Chief Engineer Nam really has a talent for architecture." A man in a blue shirt and yellow hard hat said happily, "Defense line number 5 follows the design. It is a steel wall 30 meters high, 10 meters thick, stretching 300 kilometers to the northwest. It connects 200 cities, and even tanks cannot punch through it. This is the result of the veteran Lai Kong's work." Nam Tu Thang nodded and smiled, saying, "Lai Kong, you all have worked hard, but this wall is just for show. It cannot stop the alien races. The key lies in the formations. To set up the formations, I need a massive amount of origin stones." Immediately after, red origin stones fell from the sky like rain. Nam Tu Thang stood watching, his eyes filled with determination. The system reported, "Available origin stones, 35 million. Formations can be arranged. Level 2 formations cost 1,750,000 stones. Level 1 formations cost 3,500,000 stones. The deserted area between Ungiep City and Defense Line number 5 is the ideal spot to set the trap." He whispered, "Heaven's track, Earth's fire, fierce yang source." At the same time, he activated the magic circle, and a glowing ball of energy gradually gathered in his hand. The furious flame-burning formation was stacked 50,000 times over 1 kilometer, weaving into a thick net covering the ground, each formation connected to form a giant defense system. From the furious flame-burning formation to the elemental sword energy formation, they were layered like armor. Nam Tu Thang stood on a strange rock that had just jutted out of the ground. He looked straight ahead, his lips moving, saying, "Sun and moon in the sky, yin and yang about to be punished." Every chant activated a new formation, and the barrier began to take shape. The elemental sword energy formation was also stacked 50,000 times over 1 kilometer. Furious flame. Burning formation, 50,000 stacks per kilometer, then 50,000 stacks of elemental sword energy formation, followed by the furious flame burning formation again. The formations overlapped repeatedly, and an impregnable line of defense appeared. System notification. Formation. Master has arranged 500,000 formations. Ability leveled up to 3. Activating formations. Reinforcing the Earth Spike formation with the Bronze Bone Array. Formation range increased 200 times. The system reminded, each formation consumes 30 origin stones and can be stacked infinitely. Next level up requires 5 million formations. Available origin stones, 25 million. Nam Tu Thang finished reading, his heart even more determined, and he stepped down. He continued speaking. Currently, Level 2 formations have been spread over a 10-kilometer range, enough to stop low-level alien races. No need to use origin stones for Level 3 formations yet. I should avoid leveling up too soon. Using them in the second wave won't be too late. Tonight, I will set up a 35-kilometer defensive ring around Niep City, with 1,250,000 Level 2 formations stacked together. So, the next day at the construction site, Lai Kong called out in panic, saying, "This is bad." Chief Engineer Nam Tu Thang asked gently, "What is it?" Lai Kong pointed at the screen, saying, "Look at this." Breaking news appeared. Niep City just launched the plan to hold Defense Line Number 5. Results from the western battlefield confirm it is impossible to resist. Comments were full of curses, saying, "Nam Tu Doan is useless and wasting money. Stop it. Offense is the best defense. Go to the city hall and protest to stop him." Lai Kong was frantic, saying, "Chief Engineer, Nam, public opinion is very bad. What if they make a scene?" Nam Tu Thang remained calm and said, "Do not worry, Lai Kong. Just keep building as usual. I will figure out a way to strengthen it." Lai Kong sighed in relief, saying, all right, I will listen to you." Nam Tu Thang thought for a moment, and his eyes lit up. This defense line was meant to lure the alien races into a trap anyway, let them slip through, get overconfident, and then walk right into the formations without knowing. At that point, the enemy will be backed into a corner with absolutely no chance to counterattack. Nam Tu Thang calculated for a moment before a new idea sparked in his mind, making the defensive line operate far more effectively, going beyond just confusing the opponent. He quickly grabbed the file from Lai Kong and jotted down his thoughts, telling himself that while the elemental forbidden curse talent wasn't fully complete, he could still set up backup arrays. After finishing his notes, he handed the document back and said, "Lai Kong, we can open channels on both sides of the steel wall. The front will channel water, and the back will channel crude oil. Take a look at this." Lai Kong read it and froze, asking, "Do you mean?" He narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Exactly. When the alien race launches their total assault, the steel wall will electrify the water, wiping out the first wave instantly, and if the strong ones break through the wall, we ignite the oil to create a massive wave of fire." Lai Kong listened and clapped his hands in delight, saying, "That is a brilliant plan. I will head to the city administration immediately. They are in a hurry too." As he ran off, Nam Tu Thang stood looking into the distance, thinking that once the elemental forbidden curse was complete, this defensive line would be just the beginning. The system chimed with a notification stating available origin stones 90 million, and he smiled softly. Realizing the stones he had gathered from 2 days of hunting were enough to advance to level 4. He immediately moved up the mountain, releasing his spiritual power as a red light spread and the formation took shape, covering Qian Than, Cao Than, and Cam Than with a 75-kilometer defensive line stacked with 75 million level 2 arrays. The system continued to report that 5 million arrays had been deployed. The ability had upgraded to level 4, activating the Lightning Conductor/Array and the Nethergate Transformation Array. The range increased 40 times. Each array consumed 50 origin stones, and they could be stacked infinitely. The next upgrade would require 25 million arrays, leaving him with 15 million origin stones. He placed his hand on the ground and channeled power, thinking that the next upgrade would take a long time. Right at that moment, multiple black shadows appeared behind him, hovering ominously in the mid-air. He turned his head and recognized the familiar aura of an alien powerhouse mixed with human talent, and his heart pounded as he realized this was bad news. He immediately jumped off the cliff and rushed forward, worried that the alien race was assassinating a human prodigy. The scenery shifted rapidly until a hidden sanctuary deep in the mountains appeared, featuring an old, snow-covered house standing desolate and cold. In the silent space, a solitary figure stood before a massive boulder. The figure barely moved before an explosion rang out right in front of the old man. As the smoke cleared, the old man asked, "Tin Ha, why did you exit seclusion 2 years early? Didn't we agree on the 52nd year of the Myriad Races era?" The person opposite was So Tin Ha, the great chosen of the So family, Patriarch So. Swang Hung stared at him as So Tin Ha stepped forward and replied, "I sensed an extremely powerful domain energy at the northwest water border, gained an insight, broke through, and exited seclusion." So Swang Hung frowned in disbelief, saying the northwest water border is depleted of spiritual energy, so how is that possible? But So Tin Ha calmly replied, "That is exactly why it is suspicious." He spoke firmly, "Therefore, uncle, I want to go to the northwest myself." But So Swang Hung advised him with concern, saying the alien race is hunting the ancient chosen ones, and I fear you will be in danger. So, Tin Ha was unafraid and shrugged, replying that with the great era before us, danger is unavoidable, and if I meet an expert who can guide me, then this trip will be well worth it. After speaking, he launched himself into the air, using his domain to fly straight toward the northwest. 1 hour later, he stopped in front of a misty mountain, looking down at the glowing red array with admiration, wondering if this formation was really arranged by a single person, and realized that the Northwest truly harbored a hidden expert. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as if he had discovered something. Behind him, an alien monster covered in sharp spikes lunged forward, and So Tin Ha was startled to recognize Myriad Demon number 3578, the Steel Slaughterer, as its claws tore through the wind toward him. He hurriedly dodged, observing the creature while asking, "Are you from the alien race?" He circled down to the ground to distance himself from the attack zone, realizing the situation was extremely dangerous. Right at that moment, more alien monsters rose from the ground, and he was secretly horrified to sense that they all possessed the aura of powerhouses, realizing he had been targeted the moment he exited seclusion, proving the alien race held a deep grudge against the ancient families. A three-eyed monster with a mutated tongue appeared, identified as Myriad Demon, number 1324, the Rotting Giant, locking onto its target, the 10th ability, Chosen One. At the same time, the Steel Slaughterer continued to close in relentlessly. He was trapped between two monsters in an extremely perilous situation, and a decision flashed in his mind that he could not hesitate. So he clasped his hands to form a seal and activated his sword domain. Energy erupted around his body, striking directly at the alien powerhouses. He roared, "Blazing blue spirit, how dare you offend me? I will neither dodge nor retreat." He exerted his full strength as swordlight flashed continuously against the steel slaughterer, but the opponent remained incredibly tough. The scene shifted elsewhere as Nam Tu Thang ran furiously, muttering that the world was changing too fast. The defense line was collapsing earlier than expected. His father had reached defense line number 7, and the Chosen One was likely in trouble. In his previous life, the ancient Chosen Ones did not emerge until the 12th year of the Myriad Races era, giving humanity hope and extending their survival by 8 years before their ultimate extinction in the 200th year. The alien race had long ago planted assassins on the Blue Star to hunt down the ancient Chosen Ones, waiting to kill them the moment they revealed themselves. As he ran, he thought that his grand plan depended on them, so he absolutely could not allow them to face danger this early. Back on So Tin Ha's side, the battle grew more intense as he fought the steel slaughterer, whose sharp pincers continuously blocked his sword, while the rotting giant also deflected his attacks. He coughed up blood and panted, thinking, damn it, dealing with 2 powerhouses at the same time is still too much for me. See, right at that moment, the steel slaughterer launched a surprise attack. The rotting giant coordinated by throwing a punch to create a combo attack, and unable to dodge in time, So Tin Ha was knocked flying. His whole body felt like it was falling apart, and it was becoming impossible to keep resisting. He coughed up blood, filled with resentment, wondering if he was destined to die here just after emerging into the world. The 2 aliens continued to close in, but he gritted his teeth and sat up. His mind focused on a single thought that he could not give up. Biting his finger to draw blood, he said in a cold voice, "Even if I die, I'm taking one of you with me." Immediately after, his figure vanished into thin air, accompanied by a shouting voice that echoed, "Run, now." A violent explosion tore through the forest, sending shockwaves spreading in all directions. Nam Tu Thang managed to pull So Tin Ha away from the epicenter just in time, propping him up against a tree before turning to look at the thick smoke billowing behind them. So Tin Ha struggled to ask if he was the expert senior he had sensed, but Nam Tu Thang ignored the question and asked, "Are you okay? Can you still fight?" So, Tin Ha stood up immediately and replied firmly, "With your help, senior, I can still fight." Nam Tu Thang nodded in approval, saying, "That is good. I will take on the steel slaughterer head-on, while you keep your distance and control the rotting giant. Both are top-tier assassins, so you must be extremely careful." So Tin Ha immediately flew off, replying, "Understood, senior." Nam Tu Thang walked straight toward the steel slaughterer as a notification panel appeared, detecting a void killer ability slated for elimination. He clasped his hands to form a spell, thinking, "Long time no see. This is the perfect time to use you as a sacrifice for my formation." He activated the level 3 Swift Earth Spike Array, and the ground immediately erupted with countless sharp spikes surrounding the target. Nam Tu Thang gave a soft snort and remarked that a Tier 3 array clearly wasn't enough for this guy, so he had to step it up. He roared out Swift Earth Spike Array, boosted by 50,000, adding another 50,000 to the Ice Snow Frozen Array, then slammed his hand onto the ground, sending a sharp burst of power shooting forward. Sharp spikes erupted from the ground and shot straight at the Iron Slaughterer, catching the monster completely off guard and landing a direct hit before it could even react. Over on the other side, So Tin Ha was still struggling to drag the rotting giant away from the danger zone. When he looked back, he froze and blurted out that this looked just like the array from the sand table, but countless times stronger, and the more he looked, the more shocked he became, wondering why secret arrays were set up in the Northwest with techniques unlike any ancient family, forcing him to question who this person really was and what they were planning. The spikes transformed into hard, freezing ice, suspending the Iron Slaughterer in midair as it froze solid, and seeing this made So Tin Ha sigh in admiration, realizing the creature was completely iced over. That brief moment of distraction nearly cost So Tin Ha dearly, as he almost took a heavy hit from the rotting giant. Nam Tu Thang looked up and gave him a quiet reminder to be careful and not to get distracted. The rotting giant smashed the ground in a frenzy, slamming So Tin Ha down with such force that the impact zone exploded, sending rocks and dirt flying everywhere. Nam Tu Thang's eyes glowed red as he unleashed a punch with the power of thunder, executing the Asura violent slaughter. Without hesitating, he rushed forward and punched the rotting giant squarely, creating a terrifying collision. So, Tin Ha lay in the impact crater, panicking as he wondered if that was Asura, the mysterious figure who used to be ranked number 10, while Nam Tu Thang whispered his calculation that since such a combat opportunity was rare, rather than killing it in one shot, he should use it to sharpen this prodigy who had talent but lacked maturity, deciding that accelerating his growth would be beneficial. Suddenly, he paused to think further, realizing that the array boost wasn't just for the deployment area, but could also be applied inside the body. So an exhausted So Tin Ha struggled to apologize to the senior for being a burden. Nam Tu Thang cut him off and ordered him not to move, then used his hand to draw a symbol on So Tin Ha's forehead, and when the confused boy asked what this was, he replied that he was increasing the array boost by 10 times. The moment the symbol was complete, So Tin Ha's eyes rolled back and his face twisted in agony, forcing out a pained groan that turned into a scream, while Nam Tu Thang stood by and encouraged him to hang in there. The system immediately flashed a warning that the body could not withstand a 10-fold array boost, and that forcing the user to do so could result in them exploding and dying. So, Tin Ha lay limp on the ground, completely drained of energy, while Nam Tu Thang withdrew his power and sighed, noting that the array indeed had physical limits, but a 10-fold boost was enough to save his life. The rotting giant remained motionless after the punch, and he looked down at So Tin Ha with regret, thinking that he wanted to let the boy train more. But given his current state, that wasn't possible. He decided that today he would have to handle things himself, rotating his wrist as he prepared to continue the fight. Suddenly, an explosion in the sky made Nam Tu Thang look up in surprise and blurt out, wondering what was happening. So Tin Ha unconsciously stood up and floated in midair, his hands loosely clasped as he murmured to activate the sword domain, releasing a power around the rotting giant that caused gravity to spike and made the monster panic. At the same time, the Iron Slaughterer shattered the ice block and broke free. It swung its sword down from above, aiming a slash straight at Nam Tu Thang. Nam Tu Thang immediately formed hand seals and announced the Tier 4 Thunder Guide Cleaving Array, summoning a massive aura that crushed down and sent the Iron Slaughterer flying. Even the green aura emitting from its body couldn't withstand his power, and at the same time, the rotting giant also fell before So Tin Ha's offensive. Nam Tu Thang looked at So Tin Ha and praised him, saying that was exactly what his combat power should look like. So Tin Ha knelt on one knee and bowed, thanking the senior for saving his life and granting him enlightenment, pledging to follow his guidance from now on. But Nam Tu Thang was slightly surprised and told him to stand up first, only for So Tin Ha to continue by deducing that the senior was the mysterious Asura who used sound arrays and masks to keep important matters secret from alien spies, and asked if he was setting up the final battlefield here. Nam Tu Thang was stunned as he looked at So Tin Ha, amazed that this prodigy had both incredible talent and a sharp mind, leaving him genuinely shocked. Seeing his silence, So Tin Ha continued, saying that judging by the senior's expression, he must have guessed right, then asked if the senior's name started with the letter N. Nam Tu Thang went from surprised to terrified, his eyes widening as he cursed internally, while So Tin Ha felt even more certain, calmly explaining that he combined the unusual behavior of someone on the wanted list with the predictable range of action, noting that Asura was called a butcher by the orthodox factions for his killing, and mentioned that someone had recently applied for array permits at defense line number 5, though he wouldn't go into details to avoid probing. After speaking, so Tinha humbly added that it was all just intuitive speculation and asked the senior not to blame him if he was wrong, leaving Nam Tu Thang staring at him as if he were seeing a ghost, thinking that this guy must have a camera on his head to speak so smoothly, and wondering how a secluded prodigy knew so much. So Tinha saw he wasn't arguing, and added that while he had been in seclusion for 10 years, it didn't mean he didn't surf the web or watch TV, causing Nam Tu Thang to sigh and admit defeat. So, Tinha patted his chest and sincerely offered to lead his clan to support defense line number 7, both to fulfill his own wish and to buy time for the senior to prepare for the big event, leaving Nam Tu Thang silent but highly appreciative, realizing that he had actually found someone intelligent enough in this life to call a soulmate. After a moment of silence, Nam Tu Thang patted So Tinha's shoulder and thanked him, admitting that he really needed time but warning that the front line was 10,000 times more dangerous, and he hoped So Tinha would survive alongside him. So Tinha suddenly interrupted him by putting a finger to his lips, hushing him and saying that he understood, promising that he would definitely survive and protect everyone. Nam Tu Thang's mood dipped for a beat as the words "dad" and then "little sister" popped into his mind. So he told So Tinha to take him to the clan for a visit, saying he would set up a boost array for them before they left for the front lines, to which So Tinha responded with thanks. As the two glided through the air, So Tinha suddenly mentioned that he actually had a little sister who was mute but had pretty good space teleportation abilities, and he offered to let her follow the senior after the boost was done, hoping she could be of help. Just then, a notification popped up, drawing both their attention to the news that the So clan prodigy So Tinha had emerged, killing an assassin from the alien race and over 10 crank-rotting giant corpses to take the number 9 spot on the ability ranking, while the mysterious array mage killed an alien assassin and over 10 iron slaughterers to take the number 8 spot. So Tinha led the So clan to reinforce defense line number 7, causing a stir in the busy streets as passers-by recognized the prodigy, whispering in shock about whether this was the legendary ancient genius, noting that while soldiers took cars and officers took planes, these guys flew directly, meaning they would likely reach the front lines even earlier than the last batch of veterans, a scene usually only found in novels like Era of the Myriad Races, giving hope that the prodigy's deployment would repel the alien races, all happening right there in the capital city square. Standing before Nam Tu Thang, So Tinha spoke seriously, entrusting his sister So Thien to the senior and expressing his belief that she could assist him, while Nam Tu Thang stood there eating a bun, speechless internally as he realized the guy really did have a sister. He asked in surprise if So Tinha was sure he wanted him to look after the girl, and right at that moment, a little girl with a bun hairstyle and a lollipop in her mouth looked up at him with glittering eyes, revealing herself to be So Tinha's sister, So Tien. Suddenly, two people drifted past, casting judgmental glances at Nam Tu Thang, feeling unlucky to see him after seeing the prodigy, with one remarking that he still had the nerve to be there soliciting a child, and the other agreeing, scoffing that while others had talent and spirit, this guy had nothing, causing So Thien's face to scrunch up as she pointed a finger at the two old gossips. A stream of dark energy shot out from the finger holding her lollipop. In a blink, the pair was sucked straight toward Nam Tu Thang. He looked at them, his face blank from the sudden shift, before a shrill scream rang out yelling for someone to come save them because two people had fallen into a cesspit, causing Nam Tu Thang to startle and wonder if it was So Thien, checking the list to see her name at number 12 as a level 8 space element user, right below number 11 from the Blue Gang. Nam Tu Thang instantly switched to a warm and welcoming demeanor, hurriedly shaking her hand and speaking politely. So Thien, I apologize for my rudeness earlier. The little girl happily shook his hand back and replied, In his mind, he calculated that having this kid around would save a lot of travel time, and since he was taking over all the work at the slaughterhouse in defense line number 5, he would not need to find a cover job for summoning the undead anymore. His gaze froze for a moment as old memories flashed by, and then he looked at the system panel appearing before him. The system panel displayed Undead Summoning, Ability Level 0, Beginner Stage, Upgrade Condition 100,000 Undead, Available Origin Stone points 9,500,000, Number of Summoned Undead 0. He chuckled to himself, thinking the fourth talent, Undead Summoning, had finally started up. He was overjoyed and ready to face the challenge when a loud voice rang out from the alley. "What? Did you say you want to support the butcher work for all 200 cities in defense line number 5? Truong Vien listened, unable to believe her ears, and she struggled to say, "How is that even possible? Leaving aside the workload, the distance alone is too vast." Nam Tu Thang remained leaning against the wall in silence, not in a hurry to reply. Then he raised a finger to interject. "I have a way to handle those issues. You just need to ask the manager to register it for me." Truong Vien replied softly. "Filing the application is certainly no problem. And there is indeed too much pressure on the butchers in the cities. It is just that." Nam Tu Thang was satisfied and turned to leave, waving his hand as he said, "Well, I have to thank you for that. I have work to do, so I will be going first." Truong Vien stood there, narrowing her eyes as she watched him go, thinking that his ability was much stronger than before. And he did not seem like someone who was greedy for life and afraid of death. But why did he want to fight so fiercely in the rear, instead of going to the front lines? Meanwhile, Nam Tu Thang was calculating in his head. The amount of origin stones from the butcher work was massive, and combined with So Thien's teleportation, his leveling and future layout would be much faster. He turned and said, "Let's get moving." So Thien, the little girl, sucking on a lollipop, happily raised a finger covered in black aura and replied, The scene shifts to a desolate wasteland. Nam Tu Thang and So Thien appeared amidst a pack of wolves. The little girl stroked the thick fur of a wolf, while he looked with satisfaction at the pile of origin stones the wolf pack had brought back. He clicked his tongue and said, "Very good. Keep up the hard work." The system reported 99,500,000 origin stones. Undead Summoning Ability Level 1. Beginner Stage. Ability Upgrade Condition 100,000 Undead. Exchangeable Origin Stone points 99,500,000. Number of Summoned Undead 1. Nam Tu Thang read the notification and saw that the Spirit Stones were enough, so he smiled, thinking this was the time to summon the first undead. He called out, "So Thien, let's go. We are heading to the Chinling Mountains range, about 100 kilometers from here." The little girl turned back, reluctant to leave the warm fur of the wolf, but she still extended her dark fingers. In the blink of an eye, both vanished amidst the confused stares of the wolf pack, and a moment later, they appeared on a precipitous cliff. Nam Tu Thang blurted out, This is not Chinling. Kid, did you teleport us to the wrong place?" Nam Tu Thang looked down at the little girl and realized the truth. It turned out that the teleportation distance was still limited, and after the upgrade, a single jump was only within a 100-kilometer radius, while So Thien was still focused on teleporting. It took a while longer before they finally appeared at the mountain range named Chinling. Nam Tu Thang reminded her, "So Thien, find a safe place first." When he looked down, the little girl's shadow had already vanished, leaving him speechless. "Well, she really is quicker than her big brother," he sighed, then pulled his expression back to seriousness and started to summon the undead. As a spirit rose from the ground behind Nam Tu Thang, he said, "Awaken now, great Chin Soul Pool," and immediately after, a stream of red aura rose up from beneath his feet. Green energy from the surroundings began to flood toward the red circle, and Nam Tu Thang looked over in panic, sensing that something was wrong. A spirit appeared, holding a sword and shouting loudly, "Impudent! Who dares to disturb the souls here?" The system immediately reported, Summoning Undead Qin King Yingzheng. Undead level 10. Current level cannot summon. Nam Tu-Thang gripped his sword hilt, feeling tense inside, thinking, dead for thousands of years, but his presence is still this intense. Is this an Emperor Ta undead? I wonder if we can talk this out civilly. He took a deep breath, drew his sword, and said politely, Senior, a great calamity is imminent, and this junior wishes to borrow soldiers. Qin King Yingzheng tightened his grip on his sword and roared, Scoundrel! How could my soldiers be controlled by a little demon like you? As he spoke, he pulled out his blade. He swung his sword once and continued to shout, If you want to use my army, you must show me what you are capable of first. Nam Tu-Thang leaped back to dodge, his eyes transforming as he replied, In that case, this junior will have to offend you, he shouted. Asura state. Open. Qin King Yingzheng arrogantly said, I united the 6 states. What have I not seen? You dare to show off your skills before me, a brat whose mother's milk has barely dried on his lips. The 2 streams of sword energy from a human and an undead collided, and the pressure that radiated out was heavy and crushing. Nam Tu-Thang was sweating bullets but kept his voice steady as he replied, You have never seen it, so we have to fight to know. Qin King Yingzheng became even more furious and shouted, Arrogant bastard! Nam Tu-Thang did not retreat half a step and continued with Asura Dragon Slayer, slashing down with his sword toward Qin King Yingzheng. Qin King Yingzheng laughed mockingly. You rely on this and call it a Dragon Slayer. Humph, let me show you what a true Dragon Slayer looks like. As he spoke, a giant form of a true dragon rose up behind him, and he arrogantly declared, Sovereign True Dragon Ultimate Kill. The true dragon opened its massive mouth and charged toward Nam Tu-Thang, who immediately shouted, Asura Demon Slayer. And right after that, countless powerhouses from alien races appeared behind him. However, the moment that crowd charged up, they were swept away by the true dragon in a single strike and instantly disintegrated. Nam Tu-Thang gritted his teeth, his heart tightening, thinking, No wonder he is an Emperor Ta undead. Asura has met its match. Suddenly, a giant skeleton rose from the ground, black aura rolling thickly over its body, and it bowed low toward the true dragon, causing dust and rocks to be swept up blindly. Qin King Yingzheng remained dismissive. Humph, just more flashy tricks. Nam Tu-Thang smiled with certainty. Humph, is that so? In an instant, the true dragon was dyed by the red aura from the giant